Chapter 943. Qin Sheng would never forget Lin Su, and Lin Su would never let him go. After she got pregnant, Lin Su did not tell Qin Sheng about it immediately. That was because she knew what kind of situation Qin Sheng was in now. Although she could not help him, she did not want to be a burden to him. She even thought about aborting the child for a moment, because she felt that this child came at a bad time. However, after all, this was her and Qin Sheng's child. She could not bear to abort it. She could only wait until the Qin family situation eased, or when she could not hide it anymore. However, she did not expect that they would break up. She did not even have the chance to speak, so she did not need to. After breaking up with Qin Sheng, Lin Su had never thought of aborting the child. She chose to give birth to the child without hesitation and raised it alone. That was because this was the only memory she had with Qin Sheng in the future. She also knew that she would never like anyone else again, because there was no second Qin Sheng in this world. She did not want to tell Qin Sheng, because she did not want this matter to affect his choice, and also because she did not want to bring danger to herself and the child. This was also what Qin Sheng wanted. Even if Qin Sheng wanted to keep the child, what about the various parties who were closely related to the Qin family, the Zhu family, the Song family, and so on? In the face of interests, there would definitely be people who would take risk. Anyone could be sacrificed. What was a child? But now, Lin Su could feel relieved, because Qin Sheng had already thought of a way out for her. Not only had he thought of a way out for the child, but he had also made a choice for her. Especially when he said that one day, when he was powerful enough, he would definitely take her and the child back. Even if he lost everything, even if he offended everyone, he would not hesitate and would not hesitate to do so. Lin Su did not want to think about the future, regardless of whether Qin Sheng would do this in the future. After all, time could change a lot. But hearing this at this moment, Lin Su was already satisfied. She was satisfied to have met Qin Sheng in this life. Women were so simple. When they met the man they liked and loved deeply, they would only have him left in their world. Everything would change for him. After a long time, Lin Su finally wiped away her tears and calmed down. Xue Qingyan's shoulder was wet because of Lin Su's tears. She helped Lin Su sit on the sofa and comforted her. "Do you feel better now?" Lin Su asked. "Yeah." Lin Su nodded, a little embarrassed. She had never lost her composure like this before. But then she asked, "Sis, did he really say that?" Xue Qingyan laughed and said, "How could I lie to you about this kind of thing? He was the one who asked me to come back to look for you. I know he is very worried about you, but I also pretended to be heartless. This is the best way to protect you. He is still the same Qin Sheng, but he has no choice. If he changes, I will be the first to disown him." "Is he okay?" Lin Su asked with concern. Xue Qingyan answered honestly, "Not bad, but I don't see the smile on his face anymore. He looks more serious than before." Lin Su fell into silence and stopped talking. Xue Qingyan knew that Lin Su was worried about Qin Sheng again. She said quickly, "Don't think about it. You are in a bad state these days. I will take you abroad to relax. You can choose Southeast Asia, Europe, Japan and Korea." Lin Su hesitated for a moment and shook her head. "Forget it. Let's talk about it after I finish my work. There are other people to do the work. Is there no one at home? You don't have to do everything yourself. You will be tired. I have the final say this time, or I will complain to Qin Sheng," Xue Qingyan said firmly. Since Xue Qingyan had said so, Lin Su had no choice but to agree. In order to avoid Lin Su's regret, Xue Qingyan directly decided where to go and finally chose Singapore. She even asked her assistant to book the plane tickets and so on overnight. Maybe it was the best choice for Lin Su to leave the country now, to save some unnecessary trouble and worries. The West Mountain Villa of the Qin family in Beijing was brightly lit tonight. The dining room was particularly lively at this moment. At this moment there was endless laughter. Hearing that Song Ryu was coming to the Qin family, everyone except for the Qin family was there. There were also a few juniors from the Zhu family. They also wanted to meet the goddess of the Song family. Zhu Jiao was one of them. At first, he felt that it was unfair for Qin Sheng to give up Lin Su. After all, he had recognized Lin Su as his future cousin-in-law. She was beautiful, elegant, tall and had a good figure. She had a good family background. If she did not have a girlfriend, he would have pursued her. Who knew that things would turn out like this? Although Zhu Jiao also knew the reason, he still felt a little uncomfortable. However, after meeting Song Ryu tonight, Zhu Jiao actually felt that this cousin-in-law was not bad. Forget it, these were adult affairs, and he would not meddle in them. In addition to Zhu Jiao's sister, Zhu Weigua's second son and daughter-in-law were also there. With so many women present, the atmosphere was very harmonious. Qin Sheng accompanied his cousin and Zhu Jiao to drink. Song Ryu sat beside Zhao Anji and talked with her most of the time. Zhao Anji naturally liked Song Ryu very much, because there was no reason for her not to like her. But tonight, Song Ryu said a lot of sentimental words. For example, Qin Sheng's mother passed away early, and his father was like this now, so he could not see Qin Sheng get married. She hoped that Song Ryu and Qin Sheng could live a good life in the future. As for their wedding, Qin Sheng didn't need to worry about it. As the aunt, she would definitely hold a grand wedding. Qin Ran behaved as usual. Only Qin Jing was depressed all night and didn't talk much, let alone Song Ryu. After all, in her heart, she recognized Lin Su as her sister-in-law. Maybe it was because of the first impression. It was normal for Qin Jing to be inexperienced. Zhu Jiao, who was very familiar with Qin Jing, kept making her laugh. They were about the same age, so they had their own topics. At 9:30 in the evening, the meeting was over. Everything went smoothly without any interruption. Song Ryu blended in well with the big family. After all, she knew several of them before. Although they were not close friends, they still knew each other. It seemed that they all approved of Song Ryu. Zhu Jiao stayed here tonight. After the Qin family sent the others away, Zhao Anji asked Qin Sheng to send Song Ryu home. This was also Qin Sheng's duty as her fiancé. After all, it was not very safe at night. On the way back, Qin Sheng asked casually, "How did you feel tonight?" "I felt that it was more natural for you than for me to go to your house. I was so nervous that your parents would take a knife out of the kitchen and drive me away." "Are you exaggerating? My parents are not very good to you. But I still think the atmosphere in your house is better. Every time we get together, we are too serious," Song Ryu retorted and sighed. Qin Sheng chuckled and shook his head. "That's because there is only one elder here tonight. She has been living in Canada for these years, so she doesn't have the temper of the other elders in the family. If other elders were here, we would not have behaved like this. Even if I eat with an old man, I will behave well." Song Ryu asked with interest, "Aren't you afraid of Uncle Qin?" "I am afraid of your father. How can I not be afraid of my father? But thinking about it, maybe because we have been separated for these years, we are not so familiar with each other. Now we are gradually getting used to it," Qin Sheng explained casually. Song Ryu nodded slightly and said, "Yes, that should be the reason. My aunt always feels that there is not a lot of people in the house. Now she is waiting for you to marry into the family. Recently, she has started to look at the wedding house for us. Maybe she will ask for your opinion when the time comes." Qin Sheng was a little amused. Song Ryu was surprised and said, "It is a little too early. Let's talk about it later." In fact, Song Ryu rarely took the initiative to talk about the future. Most of the time, it was Qin Sheng who took the initiative to talk about it. But when Qin Sheng brought it up, Song Ryu would not avoid it. Maybe it was because their relationship was relatively special. They were not the kind of people who knew each other first, then fell in love, and finally got engaged and married. They were going to get engaged and married directly after they met each other. Qin Shing did not continue to dwell on this topic. On the way, they talked about some trivial things tonight. Soon they arrived at the community where Song Ryu lived. Qin Shing sent Song Ryu upstairs and left. He still did not enter Song Ryu's house. He had always thought that their relationship had not reached that stage, and he should give Song Ryu enough time and distance to adapt to it. After Qin Shing went downstairs, he could not help but feel a headache when he saw the man standing downstairs. Why did he meet Song Hushing again? Song Hushing was really haunting him. Qin Shing did not avoid it. Anyway, he had already fallen out with Song Hushing. He had no fear. He walked straight over and said, "You will not stop until you die. Do you think you can win?" Song Hushing faced Qin Shing and sneered. Just as Qin Shing hated him more and more, he also hated Qin Shing more and more. Maybe they were enemies in their previous lives. Qin Shing lit a cigarette and replied, "Do you think you can win?" Song Hushing said calmly, "If you leave Ryu now, it is not too late." "I have said that it is impossible," Qin Shing replied without hesitation. Song Hushing didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed and said, "Fine. You won't give up until you hit the wall. I'll wait for your next performance. I hope you won't let me down. Otherwise, I won't be able to take out the gifts I prepared for you." Qin Shing squinted and stared at Song Hushing. It seemed that Song Hushing's counterattack was coming, and it was not a simple one. He just did not know what it was, but Qin Shing still had to be careful. After saying this, Song Hushing passed by Qin Shing with a smile and entered Song Ryu's building. Obviously, he did not come here for Qin Shing tonight. He had something to talk with Song Ryu. After Song Hushing left, Qin Shing was stunned for a while before he came to his senses. He could not figure it out no matter how hard he tried, so he did not think about it anymore. He would deal with it as it came. After all, these were things that would happen sooner or later. After Qin Shing returned to the West Mountain Villa, he took a shower and lay on the bed. It was hard for him to fall asleep. He had been like this since he came back from Shanghai. At this moment, he was the real him. He was not the real him in front of everyone during the day. He did not expect that he would live like this one day. It was so ironic. In the end, he was so sleepy that he fell asleep unconsciously. A few days later, the Chang'an department held a board meeting as scheduled. Chapter 944. Since Qin Chang'an went missing, the Chang'an group had been in turmoil. It could be said that there were internal and external troubles. Everyone was in a state of panic. The executives belonged to different camps, and the major shareholders were behind them. They were fighting and scheming against each other. This was just the headquarters of the group, not to mention the subsidiaries and branches. The executives were well aware that the Qin family had lost its power in the Chang'an group. The other major shareholders were going to join hands to kick the Qin family out of the group. The Qin family had been fighting against them all the time. At this time, many people began to reconsider the question of which side to take, because the two sides were like fire and water. This was a gamble. If they bet correctly, their future would be bright. If they bet wrongly, they could only pack up and leave. Thus, everyone had been concerned about the situation. Seeing that the Qin family was becoming weaker and weaker, most people chose to side with sixth uncle, while a small portion insisted on standing on the Qin family's side. Both sides had been at each other's side for a long time. It was not until Qin Chang'an was taken away by the authorities that the dust finally settled. That was, the Qin family had lost, while the sixth uncle had won. Those who were on the sixth uncle's side had made a lot of money, while those who were on the Qin family's side had lost everything, including Chang Sini and Hao Mingyi, who were on the Qin family's side. They were Qin Chang'an's trusted subordinates. Naturally, they would never betray Qin Chang'an or the Qin family. So what if they were kicked out? But what about the people below them? After all, they were still members of the board of directors. Even if the Qin family was eliminated, they still had a seat on the board of directors. Therefore, during the period when the sixth uncle was in charge of the Chang'an faction, he had begun to sort out the direct descendants of the Qin family. Many of them had been fired and some had even gone through the legal process. Every new emperor had his own courtiers. This was the reality and interest. Many things were uncertain. Just when the people who had elected sixth uncle were complacent, no one had expected that the Qin family would make a comeback and reconvene the board of directors and the shareholders' meeting. It was said that some major shareholders stood on the side of the Qin family again. The Qin family had an absolute advantage and was going to take control of the Chang'an group again. At that moment, everyone was in a panic. At the same time, after hearing this news, those who had been standing firmly on the Qin family's side and hadn't been eliminated yet were overjoyed, because the opportunity that belonged to them was about to appear. A board meeting was held at 10 o'clock. Zhao Anji and Qin Sheng arrived half an hour earlier. This time, Qin Sheng did not go to the underground parking lot. Instead, he appeared in front of the main entrance of the Chang'an group's headquarters. A large number of executives of the group were already waiting there. Naturally, most of them belonged to the Qin family, led by Chang Sini and Hao Mingyi. From the main entrance of the group's headquarters to the meeting room of the group's board of directors, Qin Sheng and Zhao Anji were surrounded by a crowd of people. They were so high-profile this time to tell everyone that the Chang'an group would always belong to the Qin family. No one could take the Chang'an group away from the Qin family. The Qin family was back today. Along the way, Qin Sheng had shown a strong aura and enough confidence. He was the son of Qin Chang'an, the future leader of the Chang'an faction. This time, he should be the one to officially meet everyone. At present, the Chang'an group was temporarily replaced by a senior executive from Uncle Six's side. Chang Sini and Hao Mingyi had been replaced and basically resigned. Uncle Six was polite to them. After all, considering that they had worked hard for so many years, he didn't kill them, so he gave them a decent way to leave. However, he didn't expect that the Qin family would come back after he took control of the Chang'an group for a few days. In the meeting room of the group's board of directors, when Qin Sheng and Zhao Anji walked in, only the director of the Li family was present. The two independent directors did not show up, as usual, because they would never get involved in the internal strife of the Chang'an group. They had always been neutral. This time it was the same. Even though the sixth uncle had won them over, the Qin family did not care, because there was still the following shareholders' meeting, and the Yang family had not shown up yet. The sixth uncle, the Su family, and Zhe Yuan had not arrived yet. It was said that they would not show up today and only sent their client. When the director of the Li family saw Qin Sheng and the others, he hurriedly walked over with a smile and greeted them. Chairman Qin, Chairman Zhao, finally you are here. Only under the leadership of the Qin family can the Chang'an group achieve glory again. From now on, we will support the Qin family without hesitation. If there is anything in the future, please feel free to contact us. When Qin Sheng and Zhao Anji saw the director, they already knew that the Li family did not lie to them. It should be true that the Qin family had broken up with the sixth uncle. It seemed that the sixth uncle had completely failed. Qin Sheng finally felt how powerful the marriage alliance in Siju City was. Zhao Anji replied politely, "Thank you for your support, Chairman Li. Let's get together more often in the future." After a few polite words, the two sides sat in their respective seats. Currently, the Qin family had 4 seats on the board of directors, excluding Qin Chang'an, plus the seats owned by the Li family. They had already gained the upper hand, so they did not need to worry about the sixth uncle at all. Before they came here today, Qin Sheng, Zhao Anji, and the others had made 2 plans. One was that, if the Li family did not support the Qin family, the Qin family would propose to reconvene a shareholders' meeting to elect a new board of directors. This was the right of the Qin family, supported by the law, and could not be changed by the sixth uncle. If the Li family supported the Qin family would announce several proposals at the board of directors. The most important one was to elect a new management, and let the direct descendants of the Qin family take charge of the Chang'an group again. From then on, Chang Xini and Hao Mingyi would be responsible for all the affairs of the Chang'an group. Secondly, they would continue to hold a shareholders' meeting to elect a new board of directors, because the major shareholders such as the Yang family would be present. After the marriage alliance between the Qin family and the Song family, not only the Yang family and the Li family turned to the Qin family, but also the other two major shareholders. Although they did not have many shares in their hands, who would not be willing to do the icing on the cake. Everyone knew how powerful the Qin family was with the Song family and the Zhu family. They did not dare to offend the Qin family, so they naturally stood on the side of the Qin family without hesitation. As long as the shareholders' meeting was held, they could naturally kick out the directors on the side of the sixth uncle. No matter how many directors they could kick out, the Chang'an group would be completely controlled by the Qin family in the future. No one could threaten the Qin family anymore. Just after 10 o'clock, several directors or clients on the side of the sixth uncle finally arrived. The board of directors of the Chang'an group was held as scheduled. Compared with the last time, there seemed to be no tension this time, because the Qin family had an absolute advantage. When the board of directors of the Chang'an group was held, the sixth uncle, Li Ziyuan, and the one from the Su family were drinking tea with the sixth uncle. They did not seem nervous or worried, because it did not matter whether they went or not today. After all, the result had been determined. "Sixth uncle, are we just going to wait for a nightmare?" Ziyuan said with some confidence. The sixth uncle drank the old pu'er tea and said disapprovingly, "Otherwise? What's the use of you going there? You'll just be a joke. It's just a board of directors meeting. The shareholders' meeting hasn't started yet. We still have a chance. Brother Six, are you sure we can make a comeback before the shareholders' meeting? Otherwise, we've been tossing and turning for so long, but we've been completely wiped out. Next, we'll have to face the revenge from that side. The Song family and the Zhu family are even more covetous. We can't make another mistake this time," the eldest brother of the Su family said thoughtfully. The sixth uncle said confidently, "If I didn't even have this ability, would I have said that? Things are far from that simple. Do the Song family and the Zhu family really dare to interfere? The more pressure Qin Chang'an is under, the more chances we have to turn the tables. Everything is not settled yet." Ziyuan said cautiously, "Sixth uncle, this is my last chance. Otherwise, I won't have any say in the family in the future. I trust you for the last time." The sixth uncle laughed and said, "You can watch a good show." The eldest brother of the Su family and Ziyuan didn't understand the sixth uncle's plan. Anyway, the sixth uncle had said that this time, the Qin family would die miserably. The big shots behind them had already taken action. Even if they had to face the direct attacks from the Song family and the Zhu family, they wouldn't be afraid, because in that case, they would have to pay a greater price. At 11:30, the board of directors of the Chang'an group came to an end smoothly. Without any surprises, the Qin family won a great victory. All the proposals were passed, including that Zhao Anji would be the chairman of the Chang'an group, Qin Xing would be promoted from a non-executive director to an executive director, and a shareholders' meeting would be held in a month to re-elect the board of directors. After that, the Chang'an group held a senior management meeting and announced the reappointment of the board of directors. Several senior managers were dismissed. Chang Xini, Hao Mingyi, and other direct descendants of the Qin family took charge of the Chang'an group again. Everyone was in an uproar. It didn't occur to them that the Qin family would make a comeback in this way. For a moment, some people were happy while others were sad. But no one could change the fact, because everyone made their own choices, and no one else could be blamed. Chapter 945. The Qin family's return to the Chang system was not good news for most people, because too many people took advantage of the Qin family when they were in trouble. Even those in the Chang system did so, not to mention those former business partners. Now that the Qin family had returned to the Chang system, they naturally had the ability to settle accounts. Except for Qin Shing, the rest of the Qin family had joined the Chang system. Zhao Anji became the chairman, and Qin Ran had joined the management team. Qin Ran had been in charge of the asset management company under the Chang system before, but now she had taken this opportunity to join the management team. Qin Jing had also joined the risk management committee and would be independent in the future. It was not suitable for Qin Shing to join the management team at the moment. He had a lot of other things to deal with. He would consider joining the Chang system when the opportunity was right. Moreover, the Chang system had returned to the Qin family, so it didn't matter who was in charge. In addition to preparing for the engagement with Song Ryu, Qin Sheng also had to take care of the internal affairs of the Qin family, which was how to deal with the two ambitious masters of the Qin family, the one in Dalian and the one in Shenzhen. Now that the Chang system had come to an end, the Qin family finally had time to deal with them. At noon, many executives of the Chang system had lunch in a restaurant near the group. Most of them were the direct descendants of the Qin family and those who had been neutral before. Next, the Qin family would clean up the Chang system to make sure that the previous things would not happen again. Anyway, the Qin family had an absolute advantage now, and they had fallen out with the sixth uncle, so they had nothing to worry about. Next, there would be a series of plans against the sixth uncle. Qin Shing didn't attend. He went back to the West Mountain villa of the Qin family in advance. Before the matter of the old man was settled, the Qin family would not return to the Sihiyuan temporarily. After all, it was too high profile there, and many reporters were waiting there, always wanting to make some explosive news. However, today, the Qin family's return to the Chang system was bound to cause a stir in the capital circle. Next, the companies related to the Chang system had to consider how to repair their relationship with the Qin family. After all, the Chang system not only had many subsidiaries, but also had a stake in many listed companies. In the living room of the villa, Chang Baji and the company were waiting for Qin Shing. Besides, Nangong was also there. She had almost recovered, so Qin Shing needed her to go out this time. Old Chang, bring Brother Wu to Shenzhen and find out what's going on there. It's best if you can get some dirt on him. I'll deal with him later. Uncle Gongsun, you and Nangong should go to Dalian. I don't believe that the one in Dalian did not participate in what happened in Changbai Mountain last time, Qin Shing said. Chang Baji said worriedly, if we all leave, who will protect you? Don't worry. During this period of time, no one will take risks out of desperation. I'm in the limelight, Qin Shing said half-jokingly. What he said was true. The marriage between Qin and Song was a hot topic. The old lady had also returned to Beijing. Behind Qin Sheng were the Zhu and Song families. Whoever dared to stand out in a high-profile manner would be courting death. Qin Sheng and Song Ryu had been engaged for quite some time. In less than a month, the Qin family was almost ready. They had invited all the direct relatives of the two families. At that time, Old Master Song and Old Lady Zhu would also attend. It was destined to be another feast. On Saturday afternoon, Qin Sheng accompanied Song Ryu to the hospital. First, they went to see Old Master Song. Old Master Song and Old Master Zhu talked a lot with Qin Sheng. Since Song Ryu had agreed to marry Qin Sheng, Old Master Song's attitude toward Qin Sheng had been getting better and better. Every time, he had a lot to talk about. He also asked Qin Sheng to find time to take Song Ryu back to Xi'an and let her visit Old Master Qin's grave. Qin Sheng thought about it and agreed. Since they had come this far, it was time to take Song Ryu to meet his grandparents and his mother. Therefore, he readily agreed. Anyway, he had nothing to do during this period. After visiting old Master Song, Qin Sheng and Song Ryu went to visit their grandmother. His aunt accompanied his grandmother alone. When old lady Zhu saw Song Ryu, she was so happy that she didn't say much to Qin Sheng. Instead, she talked more with Song Ryu. She also asked Wu Yajun and Zhu Qingwen to take Song Ryu to buy some clothes when Zhu Qingwen came to Beijing. Song Ryu hurriedly said that it was not necessary, because Qin Sheng had taken her to buy a lot of things some time ago. After that, Zhao Anji and Qin Ran took Song Ryu shopping. Compared with Qin Sheng's prestige, Zhao Anji and Qin Ran were more straightforward. They bought a lot of things for Song Ryu, including cosmetics, jewelry, clothes, and so on. They spent millions on that day, which showed how rich the Qin family was. Zhao Anji and Qin Ran were really generous. Song Ryu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. No wonder so many women wanted to marry into rich and powerful families. Once they married into rich and powerful families, they would instantly be free of pressure. Who wouldn't want that? The next day, Qin Sheng took Song Ryu to visit his grandfather and mother. Her grandfather lived in Babaishan, which Song Ryu was familiar with. When she was a child, she had followed old Master Song there many times, because many of old Master Song's old friends were buried there. But this time, she was here to see Qin Sheng's grandfather. Qin Sheng didn't say much to his grandfather, because he had long lost his memory of his grandfather. He only knew the grandfather in the files. Most of the things he knew were from his grandmother and his aunt. They said that when he was a child, his grandfather loved him the most and would bring him gifts every time he came back from a business trip. Qin Sheng didn't expect that the old man would be so kind. Compared to Qin Sheng, Song Ryu knew the old master better than Qin Sheng because she had met him many times. After all, the old master and her grandfather had worked together in the past. She had also been to the Zhu family many times. She still remembered the old master clearly. After that, Qin Sheng took Song Ryu to his mother's place. Lao Guo, who was guarding the door, was very happy to see Song Ryu, because Qin Sheng said that she was his fiancée. Although they weren't engaged yet, it would only be half a month. Moreover, everyone knew it, so Qin Sheng didn't have to be afraid. Lao Guo led Qin Sheng and Song Ryu into the house. On the way, he said excitedly, "Ryu, Qin Sheng is so lucky to have a wife like you. I'm also very happy to see Qin Sheng's mother. His mother has been waiting for this day for many years. Now she finally sees you, and she doesn't need to worry anymore. It will be even better when you have a child. Uncle Guo, it's my duty. I'll come here more often in the future." Song Ryu was a little embarrassed. Qin Sheng had told her about Lao Guo. Song Ryu didn't distance herself from him because of Lao Guo's identity. Instead, she chatted with Lao Guo amiably. Lao Guo nodded with satisfaction and said, "It's great that you can think this way. Good girl." Lao Guo left after taking Song Ryu and Qin Sheng to their place. Standing in front of his mother's tombstone, Qin Sheng said with mixed feelings, "Mom, I brought Ryu here to see you." A few days ago, Qin Sheng had stood here and talked with his mother a lot, saying all the words that had been in his heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to see his mother in this way. After all, his mother already knew Song Ryu. Moreover, his mother had seen Song Ryu many times when she was a child. At that time, she had been close to Song Ryu's mother. Qin Sheng had learned this when he visited Song Ryu's home last time. "Auntie, Ryu is here to see you. Do you still remember me?" Song Ryu said sadly. Maybe standing here reminded her of many things in the past. Qin Sheng said half-jokingly, "Next time, will you call me Mom?" Song Ryu blushed. She turned around and glared at Qin Sheng. But it seemed that it was true. She had changed the way she addressed him after they got engaged. After offering incense and burning paper money, Qin Sheng said to Song Ryu, "Chat with my mother for a while. I'll go upstairs." Qin Sheng knew that Song Ryu had something to say to his mother. He wouldn't say anything if he stayed here. Anyway, he had said what he wanted to say last time. This time, he just brought Song Ryu here. When Qin Shing and Song Ryu came to pay their respects to their mother, Chang Baji and Gongsun had also arrived in Shenzhen and Dalian. However, they were followed by Elder Long's people. Elder Long was behind the betrayal of the Qin family in Dalian and Shenzhen last time. This time, Elder Long took action again, because it was only a part of his plan. Therefore, as soon as Chang Baji arrived in Shenzhen, he was put in a tough spot. The car that he was in was tampered with, and the brakes failed on the road. Fortunately, the car was not fast at that time, and the airbag popped up, but Chang Baji and Bak were still slightly injured. This made them realize that there might be spies in the Qin family. Otherwise, how could they know about it in Shenzhen? Therefore, Chang Baji and Bak could only change their strategy. They temporarily disappeared for a few days and then took action. Gongsun, who went to Dalian, was not surprised. After all, Gongsun's status was different from Chang Baji's. He had a lot of power in Siju City. Even if he went to Dalian, he would be afraid. After all, Dalian was the most prosperous city in the northeast. But even so, Elder Long's people were still watching Gongsun. It seemed that it was a little difficult for the Qin family to clean up the family. Chapter 946. The battle in Chang'an came to an end because of the Qin family's strong return. However, everyone knew that Sixth Uncle would not give up easily. However, Sixth Uncle had not found a suitable way to break the situation, or maybe he was waiting for an opportunity to avoid the Qin family. Once they found a way to survive, they would definitely fight back fiercely again. At that time, no one knew who would win. How could Sixth Uncle and the others give up so easily? Those who had nothing to do with it were all waiting to continue watching the show. How could this show end so easily? Otherwise, Sixth Uncle and the others would be completely annihilated. After all, they had been tossing and turning for such a long time. They didn't know how much manpower and financial resources they had wasted, but they also didn't know how many people they had offended. At this time, it was hard to get off. They could only bite the bullet and continue forward. Now that Sixth Uncle was defeated by the Qin family, Elder Long finally decided to take action. Song Shixin from Dalian, He Yong from Shenzhen, and Bao Fan from Shanghai were the first few trusted subordinates of Qin Chang'an, even earlier than Chang Sini and Hao Mingyi. There was also Brother Wu's father, who left the Qin family and started his own business in Inner Mongolia. With the help of the Qin family, he had become a local tyrant. There were also some elders who had followed Qin Chang'an in the past. Some retired for thousands of years and no longer cared about the affairs of the world. Some went out to do small things without any achievements, and some finally returned to ordinary life. At the beginning, when the Qin family was in trouble, these people were still planning to help the Qin family through the difficulties. However, as the situation became more and more serious, most of them dared not to get involved in the muddy water anymore, for fear of being implicated. Especially after Qin Chang'an was taken away, almost all of these people disappeared. As a result, after Qin Shing took over the Qin family, except for Gongsun and Bao Fan, no one cared about him. Brother Wu's father was already very loyal. After all, he had already established his own family, and this matter involved so many people. Naturally, he did not dare to stand up for Brother Wu. However, he was able to let Brother Wu stay in the Qin family and not leave. He was considered to have treated the Qin family well. Qin Shing was most grateful to Bao Fan in Shanghai. He had troubled Bao Fan a lot in Shanghai. In the end, after the Qin family was in trouble, Bao Fan had been standing firmly on the Qin family's side. Perhaps it was because of the Zhu family. The Zhu family was deeply rooted in Shanghai. Moreover, Bao Fan had always been in Shanghai. He did not dare to betray the Qin family easily. Otherwise, he might pay a heavy price. Now, after the Qin family had been silent for more than half a year, the news of the marriage between the Qin family and the Song family suddenly broke out. Many elders were ready to make a move again. Some of them could not help but take the initiative to contact the Qin family. Perhaps they felt that the storm of the Qin family was about to pass, and now was the best time to repair their relationship with the Qin family. Qin Shing had already received calls from several elders. Some of them were already waiting for the right time. They did not dare to make a decision easily, otherwise they were afraid that they would regret it. On the other hand, Song Shixin and He Yong, who were the real three members of the Qin family except for Bao Fan, seemed to be unmoved. In the series of things that happened in the Qin family, Song Shixin and Bao Fan's attitude was that it was none of their business and they were the local tyrants in peace. After Qin Shing took over, they did not even make a phone call, which showed what they meant. What made the Qin family most angry was that when the Qin family wanted to buy the Chang and Group's shares from the Yang family, in order to raise enough funds, they asked Song Shixin and He Yong to cooperate with them. Except for Bao Fan in Shanghai, the other two people's attitudes were ambiguous, and they almost refused directly. This made the Qin family very angry, which showed that they did not hide their wild ambitions anymore. Therefore, now that the Qin family had solved the problem of the Chang and Group, they finally had time to deal with them. They had to hand over the power, because it all belonged to the Qin family. Elder Long and Sixth Uncle sent two groups of people to Shenzhen and Dalian respectively. He Yong, who was used to being a local tyrant in Shenzhen, wanted to take advantage of the Qin family to be independent. He did not care about the news of the Qin family's marriage. Anyway, he had already offended the Qin family, and he would never turn back. Therefore, when Chang Baji arrived in Shenzhen, he was put in a tough position. Song Shixin, who was in Dalian, was still hesitating. After all, Dalian was relatively close to the circle of Beijing. Now that the Qin family and the Song family had been united by marriage, Song Shixin was somewhat afraid. Even though Elder Long and Sixth Uncle had promised him a lot, he still did not make up his mind. He just asked someone to keep an eye on Gongsun in secret. There was a seaside manor near Dalian's Bongsue Island, which covered an area of hundreds of acres and enjoyed a beach. The scenery was very beautiful, especially at sunrise. This was Song Shixin's mansion in Dalian, which looked more magnificent than the mansion of the Qin family in Beijing. It could be seen how comfortable this local tyrant's life was. Not long after Song Shixin got up, the housekeeper told him that the two people had come again, which gave Song Shixin a headache. In fact, he had been delaying it because he wanted to see how He Yong was doing. Even if He Yong betrayed the Qin family, he wanted to know how the Qin family would treat him. If the Qin family could not do anything to He Yong, and He Yong won by luck, he would definitely leave the Qin family. If He Yong was defeated by the Qin family, he would also know how the Qin family would deal with him. At that time, it would be up to him to decide whether to stay or leave. Anyway, he did not want to stand out and be defeated by the Qin family. Song Shixin had no choice but to ask the housekeeper to take them to the breakfast hall on the second floor. After Song Shixin took a shower and changed into comfortable clothes, he went over. He looked to be about 50 years old. His skin and figure were well maintained. Although he was a little short, he did not look like a middle-aged man who put on weight. Because Song Shixin's second wife was a fitness coach, she would accompany Song Shixin to exercise every day. Sometimes she would also practice yoga. She had been maintaining it for the past few years, so he was in his current state. Song Shixin's mansion had spent a lot of money. Although he was a country bumpkin, he seemed to have good taste. Unlike the mansions built by the nouveau riche in the Northeast, his mansion had some modern American style. These were all designed by his first wife, who was a serious designer who had studied in the United States. In addition, Song Shixin's second wife was a highly educated lawyer, who had been helping him all the time. His third wife was a fitness coach, and her figure and temperament were enviable. Therefore, outsiders said that Song Shershin was good at picking up girls. His 3 wives were not simple, not to mention the women who had been with him. The restaurant on the 2nd floor faced the sea. The huge floor-to-ceiling windows could directly see the whole sea. When the sun rose, the whole restaurant was filled with sunlight. It was really a kind of enjoyment to have breakfast in such an environment, and one would be in a good mood for the whole day. When Song Shershin arrived at the restaurant, the 2 men were already sitting there drinking tea. Song Shershin's wives were eating in another restaurant. This was the rule of the Song family. When there were outsiders, they had to stay away. When he walked into the restaurant, Song Shershin's gloomy face instantly became happy. He said, "Sorry to keep you waiting for so long. Boss Song, you're really arrogant. This is the 3rd time we've been here." A man who looked older than Song Shershin asked impolitely. He was one of Elder Long's confidants, and also the cousin of the old man who Chong Baji was a little afraid of. They had followed Elder Long's family for 3 generations, which showed their loyalty. Song Shershin did not dare to offend them. He smiled and said, "I need to think about it. After all, it's such a big deal." Brother Song, people from the Qin family have arrived in Dalian. How long are you going to wait? A man who seemed to be in his 30s said lightly. His temperament was completely different from that of the man next to him. He was more like an elite executive because he was a nephew of the 6th uncle. Song Shershin did not deny it. "I already know, and I also know where they live." "Oh, is Boss Song going to show your loyalty to the Qin family?" "I just don't know if the Qin family will recognize you. It is not the era of Qin Chang'an now. The core figure of the Qin family is Qin Shing. Since Qin Shing took over, Boss Song has never met him. What do you think Qin Shing thinks of you?" Elder Long's confidant said sarcastically. 6th uncle's nephew echoed, "Based on my understanding of the Qin family, they will never be indecisive. No matter how loyal you are to them, Qin Shing will not spare you. At most, he will let you enjoy your old age in peace. However, Brother Song, are you willing to give up what you have in your hands?" Song Shershin replied politely, "You'd better give me some time to think about it." After hearing this, the nephew of the 6th uncle suddenly changed his face and said, "Brother Song, don't be so shameless. You really think you are a big shot. You are just a local bully in Dalian. The reason why the 6th uncle gives you face is that he thinks highly of you. Don't get yourself into trouble when the time comes." Song Shershin's face was somewhat gloomy. Obviously, he was a little angry. However, he could not be angry, because these 2 men represented the 6th uncle, a big shot that he did not dare to offend. The confidant of Elder Long had not revealed his identity, because before leaving, Elder Long had said that he did not need to reveal his identity, so he should try to hide it. If it did not work, then he would reveal his identity. Now it seemed that Song Shershin was shameless, so he had to make a move. Therefore, the confidant of Elder Long slowly walked in front of Song Shershin, leaned over and whispered in Song Shershin's ear, "Song Shershin, do you know Elder Long?" When Song Shershin heard this name, he frowned slightly. It seemed that he had heard a little about him, but it was just a rumor. There were more things involved. Seeing that Song Shershin did not say anything, Elder Long's confidant continued, "I don't represent the 6th uncle. I represent Elder Long. This time, Elder Long wants the Qin family to die without a burial place. No one can stop him. Are you going to stop him? Don't think that you are a big shot in Dalian and the Northeast. In front of many people, you are nothing. Do you understand?" What was a slap in the face? This was a naked slap in the face, which directly made you unable to fight back. At this time, Song Shershin's face was already pale, as if there was no way out. He did not expect that Elder Long would appear. The 6th uncle was already a headache for him. After all, it was only the 6th uncle who had been contacting him. Now, with the addition of Elder Long, it seemed that he had no choice. Elder Long's confidant was already unwilling to say anything more. He said directly, "I will wait for your news before the evening. If you are late, I will not wait for you." After that, Elder Long's confidant directly left with the nephew of the sixth uncle. Song Shershin was lost in thought and did not come to his senses for a long time. At 6 o'clock in the evening, as expected, Song Shershin compromised, because he had no choice but to do so. Chapter 947. It was already the end of September. The hot summer was about to end and the short autumn was coming unexpectedly. The north was getting colder and the south was still under the scorching sun. Dalian, which was located in Bohai Bay, was getting chilly at night. This was an independent courtyard by the sea, which belonged to Zhuangzhou. Every summer, Zhuangzhou would stay here for a few days, but he was not here recently. Gongsun and Nangong stayed here after they arrived in Dalian. It was more comfortable and safe to stay with an acquaintance, not to mention the environment and scenery. After all, the two stewards in this courtyard were Zhuangzhou's apprentices, who were good at martial arts. The courtyard was neither too big nor too small, but it was full of all kinds of flowers and plants, just like a private garden. It could be seen how much Zhuangzhou liked these things. When he was not here, the two apprentices would take care of the courtyard. Sometimes they would follow Zhuangzhou to the north, leaving only the old woman who was responsible for cooking and cleaning in the courtyard. Zhuangzhou's two disciples were called Dabao and Erbao. They were only 25 or 26 years old, and they were not married yet. Dabao was tall and skinny, and he was almost 1.9 meters tall. Erbao was slightly fatter, but he was also 1.75 meters tall. The two of them liked to joke around, and they got along very well. Usually, there were almost no guests in this small courtyard. Today there were finally outsiders. Dabao and Erbao were very happy. They kept greeting Gongsun and Nangong politely, especially the beautiful Nangong. She was really a feast for the eyes. Dabao and Erbao kept thinking of ways to talk to Nangong, but Nangong had a cold personality and couldn't be bothered to talk to them. In the end, they could only bitterly run to Gongsun's side to drink tea and chat. Nangong sat in the courtyard outside, looking at the sea under the night sky. No one knew what she was thinking. Since Qin Chang'an's accident, Nangong talked less and less. She spent most of her time in a daze. When she was bored, she would go out for a walk. It seemed that it was difficult for her to integrate into the current Qin family, or maybe she did not want to. Gongsun held a document in his hand. There were some special names on it. These people were the core figures around Song Shershin. Some were loyal to the Qin family. After all, it was impossible for the Qin family not to have their own people around Song Shershin. Some were neutral, but most were Song Shershin's confidants. Gongsun was thinking about how to get in touch with these people. At this moment, Dabao and Erbao were muttering. Erbao gave Dabao a look and said, "Dabao, you're the big brother. You should ask." "Erbao, you know I'm thin-skinned, so you should ask me." "I'm very shy," said Dabao embarrassedly. Erbao replied angrily, "Why are you still shy? Why weren't you shy when you were flirting with the old woman in the restaurant by the roadside? You even wanted to ask her to introduce a girl who is in college to you. Are you shy? Shameless." "Second Bao, isn't this different? Help me ask. If you do, I'll take care of all the work in the courtyard for the next week," said Dabao helplessly. "No, 1 month. Half a month. 1 month. All right, 1 month it is. Deal." After bargaining for a while, the two of them finally reached a deal. Erbao sat up straight, took a deep breath, and coughed twice to attract Gongsun's attention. He then asked, "Mr. Gongsun, can I ask you something?" Dabao and Erbao were more cautious in front of Gongsun. Their master had reminded them over the phone to treat Mr. Gongsun well. He was a big shot from Beijing. No matter what Mr. Gongsun did, They had to cooperate fully and not make any mistake. Therefore, Dabao and Erbao did not dare to ask. Although Gongsun was looking at things, he still noticed the little movements of Dabao and Erbao. He put down the things in his hands, raised his head slowly, and said with a smile, "Go ahead." "What's the matter?" Erbao found it a little difficult to speak and dilly-dallied. He remembered that Dabao also wanted to speak. In the end, after hesitating for a long time, he finally asked, "Mr. Gongsun, I just want to ask, does Sister Nangong have a boyfriend?" When Erbao said it, he was even more afraid that Nangong would hear him. After saying it, he felt a little uneasy, afraid that Mr. Gongsun would scold them or look down on them. He had already prepared an excuse. After hearing it, Gongsun laughed and said, "I was wondering what it was. So it's about this. Why do you want to pursue Nangong?" "No, no, no. I'm not pursuing her. I'm just asking for Dabao." Erbao was anxious and directly sold Dabao out. Dabao looked confused and did not know how to explain for a moment. Gongsun chuckled and said, "Ha ha ha, it's good to like someone. If you like her, you have to pursue her. As for whether you can get her or not, it depends on your own ability. But don't blame the girl if you can't get her. After all, you have someone you like, and she might also have someone she likes. Don't you think so?" "Mr. Gongsun is right," Dabao and Erbao hurriedly replied. Erbao was smart and immediately understood. He replied, "Mr. Gongsun, you mean that Sister Nangong has no boyfriend?" Gongsun smiled and nodded. "I only know that she has no boyfriend. But I don't know if she has someone she likes. You have to ask her yourself." After saying this, Gongsun stood up and walked out of the yard. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse, which was very beautiful tonight. In addition to the flowers and plants in the yard, he could not help but want to build a yard like this in the future. In that way, he could enjoy his old age in peace. However, it seemed that he was destined to work hard all his life. Gongsun casually sat beside Nangong and said gently, "Nangong, things are not going well for Lao Chang and the others in Shenzhen. We have to be careful these days. Tomorrow, you will accompany me to meet a few people. At that time, be careful." Nangong came to his senses and said calmly, "Uncle Gongsun, everything is up to you. Nangong, Master Qin has been away for a few months. Do you miss him?" Gongsun casually asked. Nangong replied in a low voice, "Uncle Gongsun, how can I not miss my foster father? Unfortunately, I can't do anything to help him. I know you are cold, but after all, you are also a member of the Qin family. When you are free, you should hang out with Qin Ran and Qin Sheng. You don't have to be so distant. I can feel that you are running away from something," Gongsun said calmly. He knew where Nangong's problem was. In the past, at least Master Qin was there, and he could be a link. But now Master Qin was gone. The Qin family was led by Zhao Anji and Qin Sheng. Qin Ran's focus was on other things. Nangong always felt that he was an outsider, so he had been running away. "Uncle Gongsun, I understand," Nangong replied politely. Gongsun smiled and said, "All right, don't sit here. Accompany me to the beach. Such a rare opportunity is rare." When they walked to the living room, Dabao and Erbao hurriedly asked, "Mr. Gongsun, Sister Nangong, where are you going?" "We are going to the beach for a walk," Gongsun said truthfully. Nangong was still so cold. She almost did not look at Dabao and Erbao, which made Dabao and Erbao feel a little disappointed. But Dabao still insisted and said, "Let me take you there. I know where the scenery is the best." "No need." Nangong did not like the presence of outsiders. In the words of young people, she had a serious social phobia. Dabao did not expect that Nangong would reject him directly. He was more or less embarrassed. Gongsun eased the atmosphere and said, "Next time. We still have something to talk about." Since Mr. Gongsun had already said it, Dabao and Erbao could not say anything else. They had to give way. Just when Gongsun and Nangong were about to leave, the yard suddenly fell into darkness. All the lights went out at the same time. Everyone could not help being surprised and immediately became alert. At this time, De Bao heard the noise outside and immediately shouted, "Who is it?" "It seems that our guests are here," Gongsun said thoughtfully. There must be something wrong when something abnormal happened. He did not think it was an accident. After all, he had seen too many accidents. De Bao immediately understood what Mr. Gongsun meant. He changed his previous cowardly look and said decisively, "Mr. Gongsun and Sister Nangong stay here. I will go to the front yard. Bao, you go to the backyard. Be careful." After that, the two brothers left the living room at the same time. In Beijing, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. At this moment, Qin Sheng was on the way to her best friend's birthday party with Songryu. He had just picked up Songryu. Songryu looked completely different tonight. Obviously, she had dressed up meticulously. This was also the first time that Qin Sheng had seen Songryu like this. She wore a long white dress and her long hair fluttered in the wind. She looked like a fairy who had descended to the world. Qin Sheng was stunned. Chapter 948. Songryu seldom attended such gatherings. At most, she would go shopping and eat with her best friends. She preferred to attend all kinds of conferences or attend classes at Tsinghua University, Peking University, and Renmin University. Unlike most girls, she seemed to be a maverick. In other words, she didn't get along well with others. Humans were a motley crew. Most people made the same choices, and most people lived the same lives. This was especially true for people of the same social class or circle. If you chose a different life path from them, everyone would have a different evaluation of you. This kind of evaluation would be more negative than positive. However, Songryu had long been accustomed to other people's opinions of her. She didn't care about others' opinions of her, because those opinions had no weight at all, and they had nothing to do with her. Those who liked Songryu were almost all tycoons, because Songryu had the ability to make them like her. This was also the most important reason why Songryu could become that man's student. In fact, Songryu wanted to go to this kind of gathering. She could have politely refused it, even though her best friend and other friends insisted for a long time. One of the reasons was that they wanted to meet her fiancé, Qin Sheng. Songryu knew that it would happen sooner or later, and Qin Sheng must have thought about it. Therefore, she agreed after hesitating for a moment, on the premise that Qin Sheng wouldn't refuse. As expected, Qin Sheng did not refuse and agreed almost without hesitation. Songryu was not surprised at all, because Qin Sheng had the same idea as her. This was the way they communicated with each other. There was no need to say too much or explain too much. They both understood each other. However, this way of communication seemed to lack the fun between a couple. Qin Sheng was dressed casually, not as exquisite as Songryu. However, he was also decent. He couldn't embarrass Songryu. After all, he was going to meet more of her friends today. As for why Songryu paid so much attention to this, it was because this was the first time that she would officially accompany Qin Sheng to such a gathering. It was also the first time that they appeared on the screen together as a couple. The dress that Songryu was wearing today was bought for her by Qin Ran and Zhao Anji some time ago. Not only was Qin Sheng stunned, everyone present at that time was also stunned. Coupled with a few decent accessories and a pair of high heels that showed off her height, Songryu was absolutely stunning today. On the way to Shuani, Qin Sheng said bluntly, "It's the first time that I've seen you like this. I almost didn't recognize you. This is not your style." "What? Don't you think you've made a profit?" Songryu asked directly. Qin Sheng coughed awkwardly and said, "Yes, yes." Not only did Songryu put on light makeup, but she also did her hair, which showed that she attached great importance to the party tonight. She smiled and replied, "Different occasions have different styles. I just don't like this kind of occasion." I prefer to deal with all kinds of documents and books, which is the place to realize my self-worth. However, it doesn't mean that I won't attend such a singing party. After all, I'm also a woman. No, you're not a woman. You're a beauty, Qin Shing said half-jokingly. Song Ryu smiled and said, "You're getting more and more direct now. Because you like to be direct. Sometimes you are even more direct than me. So I can only be this direct," Qin Shing replied in this way. Following that, he said, "I finally know why so many young talents in Siju City like you. It seems that I may have met many rivals in love tonight." "Why? Are you afraid?" Song Ryu asked deliberately. Qin Shing smiled and shook his head. "How could it be possible? I've seen this coming. I guess it's just the beginning." Song Ryu smiled and said nothing. After nearly an hour, they finally arrived at their destination, a private club that had not yet opened to the public. Although it was in the suburbs, it covered a large area. The big lawn and garden in front of it looked magnificent, which showed that the owner was either rich or noble. Moreover, since he could get in touch with Song Ryu's social circle, his background was definitely not simple. The two cars of the Qin family smoothly entered the manor and stopped in front of the main building. There were many luxury cars parked in the parking lot outside, which showed that many people had arrived. Before the waiter opened the door, the bodyguard of the Qin family quickly came to open the door. Qin Shing and Song Ryu slowly got out of the car. As soon as Song Ryu got out of the car, one of her friends, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately came to her. She held Song Ryu's hands and exclaimed, "Oh, Ryu, you're so beautiful tonight. We haven't seen you for a long time. How can we live like this?" Song Ryu replied angrily, "Zhu, you're always so exaggerated. I'm not as beautiful as you." "I'm not exaggerating. You're the goddess of our circle. We're just green leaves to complement the red flowers. Fortunately, Tong Tong is our best friend. Otherwise, she would think that you're here to make trouble." Zhu, a beauty in a gray fairy dress, said half-jokingly. Although Qin Shing hadn't seen her before, he found her somewhat familiar. Song Ryu laughed and said, "All right, I can't win against you in an argument. Is everyone here?" "Here we are. It's going to be very lively tonight," Zhu said with interest, but she didn't explain because she had already noticed Qin Shing, who was walking over and standing beside Song Ryu. He was one of the main characters tonight. It was said that many friends came here for him. He was a hot topic in Siju City now. Before Song Ryu introduced him, Zhu took the initiative to look at Qin Shing and asked, "You must be Qin Shing, the public enemy of the young talents in Siju City." "Zhu." Song Ryu stared at her best friend and said. Qin Shing generously stretched out his hand and said, "I've always been a person who attracts hatred, so I don't mind a few more. But tonight, I can see a beauty like you. My name is Qin Shing. Nice to meet you, Zhu." Zhu glanced at Song Ryu and then turned to Qin Shing. "You're such a glib talker. No wonder you have so many enemies. I really don't know why Ryu fell in love with you. I'll tell you the secret in advance. Be careful tonight because many people are coming for you." Qin Shing casually said, as expected. If the Qin family was in its heyday, Qin Shing and Song Ryu would definitely be a good match. Because Qin Shing was Qin Chang'an's son, the Qin family and the Song family were old friends, and Qin Shing had a relationship with the Zhu family, everyone would think that he and Song Ryu were absolutely a good match. Unfortunately, the Qin family had declined, so there was only the fickleness of the world and the indifference of human nature. Zhu was a little surprised. It seemed that Qin Shing had prepared well, but she didn't know whether he could survive tonight. "Let's go in first. Tong Tong is still waiting for you." Zhu took Song Ryu's hand and walked inside with a smile. Qin Shing followed her closely. Along the way, many people knew Song Ryu and greeted her with a smile. Qin Shing also saw some friends he knew, but he was not familiar with them, so he just smiled and nodded to greet them. More people pointed at Qin Sheng and quietly looked him up and down with interest. Many people were waiting to watch the fun. Because tonight, the three most outstanding young people in Siju City would all come. Song Husheng, Song Ryu's brother, Chen Taihe, who had conflicts with Qin Sheng, and Su Xingwei, whose families had fallen out with each other. Wouldn't it be fun? This club was a modern building with various glass structures. Behind the main building was a very large swimming pool. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, one could see the scene in the swimming pool. At this moment there were already many people by the swimming pool. The open space in front of the swimming pool was filled with all kinds of delicious food and wine. More than 10 waiters were passing through the crowd with wine. Qin Sheng and Song Ryu followed Zhu to the second floor, where the female protagonist of the birthday party tonight was greeting several close friends. When she saw Song Ryu, the female protagonist named Tong Tong immediately stood up and walked over with a very bright smile on her face. However, the attention of the beautiful women behind her was all on Qin Sheng, so they didn't shy away from looking at him. At the same time, Qin Sheng's reinforcements were also on the way, including Qin Ran's best friend Ma Weiyang. She had the confidence to support Qin Sheng. Zhu Jiao, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, also came. If it weren't for the fact that Qin Sheng's cousins were not suitable to be on the stage, Zhu Jiao wouldn't have had a chance. Qin Ran had long known that many people came to the party with a purpose. Naturally, they were all targeting Qin Sheng. As Qin Sheng's sister, it was not convenient for her to be on the stage, but it was not a taboo for others. Chapter 949. Tonight was just an ordinary birthday party. However, the party suddenly became lively because of Qin Sheng's participation. Many rich playboys who were qualified to attend the party came to join in the fun. Almost all of them came for Qin Sheng. Many of them came to pick a fight with him, while others didn't want to miss the fun. After all, this was the first time that Qin Sheng and Song Ryu attended such an event together after Qin Sheng and Song Ryu announced their marriage. Their identities were different now. As the original protagonist of this birthday party, Tong Tong, who was quite popular and famous in Siju City, felt a little helpless. At first, when others encouraged her to invite Song Ryu and her fiancé, Qin Sheng, to attend the party, Tong Tong didn't think much about it. She thought that people just wanted to meet Song Ryu, her fiancé. After all, he was more and more famous now. Moreover, he was the son of Master Qin, who had just fallen into trouble, the successor of the Chang and department and the Qin family, and the nephew of the Zhu family. Now he was going to marry Song Ryu, so it was reasonable for people to be interested in him. She was a famous socialite in Siju City with a high EQ and IQ. Otherwise, she could become Song Ryu's best friend. She could figure out what was going on after thinking about it calmly. She might have been used by others. After all, she was not familiar with some of them. She only had a little interaction with them in daily life. Some of them were so powerful that she couldn't even invite them. But today they suddenly gathered together. How could it be simple? But Tong Tong had no choice. There were many people she couldn't afford to offend. Now that she was riding a tiger, it was hard to get off. Since so many people had come, she might as well not reject anyone. As long as they were willing to come, she would welcome them with a smile. At the very least, she could receive some gifts and favors. Besides, there were only so many people who could come to join in the fun and watch the fun. Those who were not qualified would definitely not come. As for Song Ryu, she could only explain it to her, hoping that Song Ryu could understand her. Otherwise, they might not even be friends in the future. Tong Tong had been waiting for Song Ryu and Qin Sheng, so she asked her best friend, Zhu, to contact Song Ryu and ask her to pick them up when she saw Song Ryu. Now she finally saw Song Ryu. In order to prevent people with ulterior motives from using her as a weapon, Tong Tong stood up quickly and walked over before Song Ryu came over. Song Ryu whispered to Qin Shing, "She is Tong Tong, the main character tonight. We've known each other since elementary school." Qin Shing looked at the beautiful woman walking toward him with a smile on his face. It was said that beautiful women were always surrounded by beautiful women. This sentence was indeed a famous saying. No wonder many people said that when you saw a beautiful woman, you should not rush to chase after her. After a while, you would know that her best friend might be even more beautiful. Tong Tong was definitely the main character tonight. She was wearing a deep V-neck pink dress and a pair of crystal high heels, which made her look like a princess with outstanding temperament. Moreover, she was a princess. However, she was not as beautiful as Song Ryu, who was equally stunning. After Tong Tong came over, she took Song Ryu's hand and praised her with a smile. "Tut tut, the last time I saw you dressed like this was last year. Didn't someone confess to you at that time? Fortunately, I'm your best friend. If you go to other people's birthday parties like this next time, they will think that you're making trouble on purpose." "My beauty." Song Ryu found it funny and said, "Shall I go back and change?" "I'm kidding. You're a natural beauty. It's not your fault," Tong Tong replied with a smile. Song Ryu certainly knew Tong Tong's character. She usually liked to joke around. She didn't pay attention to her. She just handed the prepared gift to Tong Tong and said, "Happy birthday." "Thank you." Tong Tong took the gift. She just looked at it politely and gave it to the assistant next to her. After all, she had seen all kinds of gifts since she was a child. At this time, Tong Tong looked at Qin Shing and said, "Is this the Qin family's Qin Shing? I seem to have seen him somewhere last time. I didn't know him before, so I didn't say hello to him. I didn't expect that he would change his identity when we meet again. It's really interesting." Qin Shing said lightly, "Happy birthday." "Thank you." Tong Tong smiled slightly and then said, "Shall we go to the balcony and talk for a while?" Song Ryu and Qin Shing didn't refuse. They followed Tong Tong to the balcony. Standing on the balcony, they could directly see the panoramic view of the swimming pool below. At this time, there were already many people there. When they saw Qin Shing, some people's eyes never left him. "There are many people here tonight." Tong Tong took the champagne from the waiter and said casually. At the same time, she gave Qin Shing and Song Ryu a glass. Although it was the first time that she had officially met Qin Shing, she didn't have any hostility toward him. Maybe it was because she felt guilty to Qin Shing today. However, Tong Tong understood that others thought that Qin Shing didn't deserve Song Ryu. After meeting her today, she felt that they were quite a good match. Maybe others hadn't met Qin Shing yet and just thought that the declining young master of the Qin family didn't deserve Song Ryu's fame. If it were in the past, probably not many people would say so. Tong Tong had known Song Ryu for many years. She could see that the relationship between Song Ryu and Qin Shing was subtle. At least Song Ryu didn't dislike Qin Shing. They had a tacit understanding. Tong Tong guessed that Song Ryu also liked Qin Shing. Otherwise, based on her understanding of Song Ryu, she wouldn't agree to this marriage. Song Ryu joked, "Yes, it's very lively. Many acquaintances came. After all, Tong Tong is a famous lady in Siju City. She knows many people and is popular. Who doesn't want to give face to her? Don't make fun of me. I don't believe that you can't see it. If you continue to be like this, I will really be angry. You have no idea how much I regret asking you to come and dragging Qin Shing here. Now I even want to cancel this party," Tong Tong said with some uneasiness. She was telling the truth. Qin Shing's eyes lit up. Song Ryu laughed and said, "Is it necessary? To be honest, I'm not familiar with many of them. Although I know them, I have never had any contact with them. Why do you think they came to my birthday party? Many of them are people that I can't even invite on normal days. They are all here for you and Qin Shing. I guess they are on their way now." The smile on Tong Tong's face had disappeared. She became more and more nervous and worried. Song Ryu was a little surprised after hearing that. She had thought that only these friends wanted to meet Qin Shing. She did not expect that there would be so many stories tonight. She looked at Qin Shing subconsciously and asked for his opinion. If Qin Shing wanted to leave, she could leave with him now. Qin Shing was not surprised. Since he and Song Ryu announced that they were going to be engaged, even Song Ryu's brother wanted to teach him a lesson, not to mention those people waiting to see him make a fool of himself. How could these people miss such a rare opportunity? No matter if it was Tong Tong's or Juju's birthday party or someone else's, these people would come. They could hide for the first time, but they could not hide forever. It would happen sooner or later. Song Ryu's smile disappeared, and her face gradually became cold. Oh, it seems that some people are using you as a tool. Ryu, don't misunderstand me. I didn't want to do this. I just realized it later, but it was too late. Tong Tong hurriedly explained. At this time, Qin Shing took the initiative to say, "How could we misunderstand you? We should also apologize to you. I'm afraid that because of us, your birthday party may not be so smooth. Alas, these are all small things. I'm afraid that you will be targeted." Tong Tong did not expect that Qin Shing would say this. She was a little moved, which also made her have a good impression on Qin Shing. Song Ryu did not want to embarrass Tong Tong, so she asked Qin Shing casually, "What do you say? Stay or leave? I think you'd better not provoke these people. I don't know who on earth will come. At that time, they will outnumber you, and you will be at a disadvantage." Tong Tong stood in the position of Qin Shing and Song Ryu and said. Qin Shing subconsciously looked down at the swimming pool and said disapprovingly, "Since we are already here, why should we leave? Even if we leave now, do you think these people will let us go?" After that, Qin Shing continued to look down at the swimming pool. At this time, a few more people came, and in an instant, a few lively circles gathered. Qin Shing saw Su Xingwei first. It seemed that he was one of the protagonists tonight. Then he saw Chen Taihe. Was he going to get back at them? Finally, Qin Shing saw Song Hushing. He could not help but frown. Was Song Hushing also one of the protagonists? Song Ryu saw Song Hushing at first sight. Her face instantly became a little gloomy, and her eyes were full of displeasure. If Song Hushing was also one of the participants, she would be really disappointed. Chapter 950. I wish everyone a happy new year. May all your wishes come true and your wealth will be abundant. The counterattack is coming to an end. Lao Guan is also preparing a new book. New Year's book, Go, Song Hushing, Chen Taihe, Su Xingwei and Qin Shing gathered together. Wasn't it lively? He just didn't know if they came prepared or if it was just a coincidence. Qin Shing didn't believe it, nor did Song Ryu. They knew the answer after seeing each other. When Tong Tong saw the three of them appear at the same time, she couldn't help but have a headache. It was more troublesome than she thought. If they were to fight, she would probably be the first to become famous. Tomorrow, everyone would know that such a group of people fought at her birthday party. She glanced at Qin Shing subconsciously, wondering how Qin Shing had offended these people. He was really attracting hatred. Could it be true that the man Song Ryu had chosen was not a good man as the rumors said? Tong Tong didn't want to get involved in other people's troubles, nor did she want Qin Shing and Song Ryu to get into trouble. She took the initiative again and said, "Ryu, do you want to avoid them?" Tong Tong, no need. I really want to see what they want to do. If your birthday party is ruined, I'll make it up to you later. Song Ryu was a little angry. It was rare for her to be so tough. Tong Tong could see that Song Ryu was angry. She knew that she couldn't persuade her anymore, so she didn't say anything more. At this time, Juju ran over and told Song Ryu that several friends had arrived and wanted to meet Tong Tong, the princess of the night. Then, Juju dragged Tong Tong away. Before leaving, Tong Tong whispered something in Song Ryu's ear, telling Song Ryu not to pay attention to too many people and to endure many things. However, Would others be willing to put up with it? After Tong Tong and Zhu left, Qin Sheng and Song Ryu were not in a hurry to leave. Many friends wanted to talk to Song Ryu. After all, this was the first time that Song Ryu had shown up on such an occasion since she had announced that she would be engaged to Qin Sheng. Many friends that Qin Sheng and Song Ryu could not meet on normal days gathered together tonight. Song Ryu frowned and said, "Chen Taihe and Su Xingwei, the two of them must have come for you tonight. I wonder how they plan to deal with you." Qin Sheng said half-jokingly, "Your brother is also here. I don't think they dare to do anything." "You mean he will help us?" Song Ryu was a little surprised. Qin Sheng played dumb and said, "Isn't it? Do you believe that?" Song Ryu asked angrily. Song Husheng had always been very firm on this matter. He firmly opposed her being with Qin Sheng. How could he help Qin Sheng tonight? Qin Sheng definitely knew that. Therefore, Song Ryu knew that Qin Sheng was taking her feelings into consideration. Qin Sheng shrugged and said, "Okay, then I don't have any hope. As long as he doesn't hit me when I'm down, I can accept it even if he just stands by and does nothing." "I hope so," Song Ryu said calmly. At this time, several of Song Ryu's friends came to her. However, this time, they didn't pay attention to Qin Sheng. Maybe they had already met him. After introducing each other, they took Song Ryu away, saying that they hadn't seen her for a long time and wanted to have a good talk with her. Qin Sheng didn't say anything. He was not a 3-year-old kid. Although there were bound to be many accidents tonight, he couldn't stay with Song Ryu. After all, he was not that kind of person. After Song Ryu left, Qin Sheng stood on the balcony, holding a glass of wine and looking at the crowd below. He wanted to see who was here tonight. Indeed, he saw a lot of acquaintances, many of whom had conflicts with him. The rest of them had met on various occasions. However, Qin Sheng didn't attend many gatherings in Siju City, so he didn't know many of them. While Qin Sheng was looking at others, others were also looking at Qin Sheng. Song Husheng had his own circle, Su Xingwei had his own circle, and Chen Taihe had his own circle. This was caused by various factors. However, they were the absolute core of their respective circles, at least for the time being. But it might not be the case in the future. Who knew who was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? At that time, they might soar to the sky. After all, there were many people like that. "Taihe, that guy is here. What do you want to do tonight? We will listen to you. We must help you vent your anger last time." Several people in Chen Taihe's circle gathered not far from the swimming pool. They had already looked at Qin Sheng and started to plan something. Chen Taihe, who was dressed casually, sipped his wine and said, "What's the hurry? We are not the only ones tonight. I guess Su Xingwei is already eager to have a try. Let's wait and see. If it doesn't work out, we can take action." "Lao Chen, do you need me to take the lead? Last time I wasn't there. If I had been there, he wouldn't have been able to behave atrociously." A man in a polo shirt beside Chen Taihe sneered. Chen Taihe said half-jokingly, "Do you mean that you have brought the master from your family here tonight?" "Of course. At that time, if we really fight, we won't be at a disadvantage. What do you think?" The man said happily. At this time, someone else said, "I can understand why Su Xingwei is here tonight. But why is Song Husheng also here? This is his brother-in-law. If we target Qin Sheng at that time and Song Husheng intervenes, I guess it won't be fun." As soon as the man finished his words, someone responded, "Lao He, you don't know this. Song Husheng is firmly against this marriage. I heard that he and Qin Sheng are about to fall out. Even the relationship between him and his sister has been strained. So you can rest assured tonight. Song Husheng won't help you tonight." Maybe Song Husheng wants to see Qin Sheng make a fool of himself. The man suddenly understood and said, "I see. No wonder you are so confident." Chen Taihe raised his head and looked at Qin Sheng, who was on the balcony, calmly. "I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Later, you will suffer. Even if I can't ruin your reputation tonight, I will ruin your reputation in the circle of Seju City. On the lawn next to the swimming pool, there were all kinds of wine and food. Su Xingwei was dressed formally tonight and brought a beautiful woman as his companion. At this time, he was surrounded by people in their circle. Everyone's identity was not simple. It could be said that they did not dare to do anything in their lives. They could all lie on the merit books of their ancestors and wait for death. Brother Su, are you also here for Qin Xing tonight? A man, who did not hang out with Su Xingwei recently but just wanted to join in the fun today, asked tentatively. Su Xingwei said impatiently, Lao Teng, don't be afraid of making trouble. Why do I come for Qin Xing? Brother Su, others don't know, but I do. Stop pretending. If you really want to do something, you can't leave me out. We grew up together, so I'll definitely help you, Old Tang replied with a smile. Everyone's attitude toward him was not very friendly. Who asked this kid to be a little arrogant recently? It was said that his uncle had been transferred to Seju City from another province. Not only had he been promoted, but he had also been promoted to a department with real power. Su Xingwei said happily, Okay, then beat him up later. I will owe you a favor. That's not fun. Lao Tang curled his lips. Su Xingwei directly drove him away. Then do what you need to do. Lao Tang knew that it was not fun to stay here, so he made a few jokes and left. After Lao Tang left, others asked, Xingwei, what are we going to do tonight? If you can fight, don't talk. It's okay to suffer some losses, but it will ruin his reputation, Su Xingwei said bluntly. It seemed that what he said to beat Qin Xing up just now was not a joke. The others echoed, Got it. It's just a fight. You don't need to do anything. We will do it. Compared with Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe, Song Hushing's side was relatively quiet. At this moment, he randomly found a seat and sat down. Opposite him sat a young man of the same age as him, who was persuading him earnestly. Hushing, you don't have to do this. Your family has agreed. Aren't you slapping them in the face by doing this? Song Hushing sneered. My family is my family. I am me. It's not the same thing. The man frowned and said, You look down on him so much? Song Hushing said directly, He doesn't deserve Ryu. But Ryu is willing. Based on her temper, won't she fall out with you if you do this? The man was a little confused. Song Hushing said disapprovingly, She can fall out with me. I am doing this for her own good. She will understand in the future. I really don't understand. But there are many people coming for Qin Xing tonight. Don't be used by others. You will not feel good when you go home. The man kindly reminded him. Song Hushing said lightly, I know. I don't need you to remind me. The man did not say anything else upstairs. When Qin Xing was about to leave, a familiar face appeared. It was Yang Yi, who had interacted with him a few times previously. After seeing Qin Xing, Yang Yi directly came over. He was not afraid of anything. Anyway, he was familiar with everyone in this circle, and he was not familiar with them. Tonight, he heard that there would be such a show, so he deliberately came to join in the fun. Yang Yi walked up to Qin Xing and said with a smile, I didn't expect that you would really come. Do you really not know or not? Qin Xing asked, What about you? Are you here to watch the fun? Yang Yi replied, Would you believe me if I said I would help? Qin Xing said calmly, I believe you, but there is no need. Yang Yi laughed and said, Well, when you really need it, don't be shy. Qin Xing said confidently, I don't care about some things. What's the use of having more people? Aren't they just here to make trouble? Let's just fight together, so that I don't have to face them one by one. You have a temper. I like it. Yang Yi directly gave Qin Xing a thumbs up. Qin Xing was really not afraid of being famous. He was going to become famous after one fight. At this time, it suddenly became noisy outside. It seemed that the birthday party was about to officially start. Song Ryu also walked out, ready to call Qin Xing down. Yang Yi said casually, "Let's go." Qin Sheng put down the wineglass and looked at all the people below. He showed a playful smile as if saying, "I'm here, let's start your performance." Chapter 951. Zhu Jiao, the funny guy. Everyone who was supposed to be there had arrived. The birthday party was finally about to begin. Everyone was looking forward to the big show, or they would have come in vain. Tong Tong, who was originally the main character, had already become an insignificant character. Even so, Tong Tong was still a little nervous. When the time came, if things couldn't be resolved, she would probably be the scapegoat. This was something she never thought of. Before Song Ryu took Qin Sheng downstairs, she took some time to see Song Husheng. She really wanted to know why Song Husheng came here tonight. If Song Husheng was involved in this, Song Ryu would be really angry. If not, she would not ask Song Husheng for help. She just hoped that he would mind his own business. In the past, the brother and sister often met each other. However, because of Qin Sheng's matter, their relationship had been strained. Therefore, the number of times they met each other could be counted on one hand. Now that Qin Sheng and Song Ryu were engaged, the relationship between them was on the verge of breaking down, let alone meeting each other. Song Husheng came uninvited every time, and Song Ryu could not wait to avoid him. It was definitely not an accident that they could meet here this time. When Song Husheng and his friend were about to go in, they happened to meet Song Ryu. Song Ryu's friend also knew Song Ryu. Judging from Song Ryu's expression, he knew that Song Ryu was here for Song Husheng. He just smiled and said hello to Song Ryu, then left. As an outsider, he had better not meddle in the affairs of the brother and sister. "What? You're here too?" Song Husheng took the initiative to ask. Song Ryu said coldly, "Shouldn't I be the one asking you this?" Song Husheng casually explained, "Tong Tong and I are friends. I even gave her a love letter. It's reasonable for me to celebrate her birthday with her." "You're such a busy man. Do you have time to spare?" Song Ryu didn't bother to argue with him. Usually, he couldn't be invited because he had various reasons to avoid arousing suspicion. But today, he had come so openly and without fear of being criticized. There must be something wrong with this abnormal situation. Why bother to explain it with such a messy excuse? Song Husheng said lightly, "What's the matter? Let's talk." Song Ryu took the initiative to say. Song Husheng said indifferently, "Then let's chat." Song Husheng led Song Ryu to a quiet corner, where a couple had been reminiscing about old times. But when they saw Song Husheng and Song Ryu, they hurriedly said goodbye and left. After they sat down, a waiter served 2 glasses of wine. Song Husheng took the red wine, took a sip and asked, "Tell me, what do you want to talk about? What are you doing here tonight?" Song Ryu asked bluntly. Song Husheng said happily, "Didn't I say that it was Tong Tong's birthday? I gave her a birthday present." Others might believe that, but do you think I would? If you came alone, I would believe it. But if Chen Taihe and Su Xingwei came, do you think I would believe it? Are the 3 of you plotting something? Are you targeting Qin Sheng or me? Song Ryu rarely talked to Song Husheng in such a tone, and the atmosphere between the brother and sister was rarely so intense. Song Husheng laughed and said, "Ryu, you're my sister. Why would I target you? Even if Chen Taihe and Su Xingwei came, it's their business. How could I interfere? As for who they are targeting, I don't know. But if they want to target you, they have to go through me first. Besides, they don't have the guts to do that." "So they are targeting Qin Sheng?" Song Ryu said bluntly. Song Husheng shook his head and said, "I told you, I don't know." "You really don't know?" Song Ryu sneered. Song Husheng put down his glass and said, "I know they're coming. I'm just here to join in the fun, just like most people here. As for what they want to do, I really don't know." "Song Husheng, you're my brother. I believe you. But if I find out that you're colluding with them, don't blame me for telling my grandfather." Song Ryu threatened Song Husheng. This should be the first time that she had threatened Song Hushing with such an attitude. Song Hushing was a little surprised and angry. After a long silence he said, "Ruyu, I'm your brother. How could you threaten me for that bastard Qin Shing? I'm really disappointed in you." Song Ruyu suddenly stood up and shouted, "Song Hushing, watch your words." Song Hushing said happily, Oh, I forgot. He is your fiancé. I really don't know what kind of drug Qin Shing gave you. You actually agreed to this marriage. I'm really disappointed." Song Hushing said happily, "It's my business. You don't have to worry about it. I just want to tell you that you'd better have nothing to do with what happened tonight. Otherwise we'll see." Song Ryu said fiercely. She was no longer as calm as before. After saying that, Song Ryu directly stood up and left. She felt that she couldn't continue to talk with Song Hushing anymore. Otherwise they would really quarrel. She forced herself to calm down, but she really couldn't. Not long after Song Ryu left, Song Hushing was so angry that he directly smashed his glass on the ground. He must make Qin Shing pay. The grand birthday party finally began. Tong Tong came from a very rich family and married a good husband. Her husband was also in this circle and many people knew him. Therefore, many people came tonight in the name of her husband. However, her husband was not in China recently. He had been on a business trip in Singapore, but he gave her a lot of money to prepare this birthday party. That was why it was so lively tonight. After saying goodbye to Yang Yi, Song Ryu left with Qin Shing. Everyone had already arrived at the pool outside. Song Ryu and Qin Shing greeted many friends along the way. Maybe the party was about to begin, so everyone's attention was no longer focused on Qin Shing. The music started and the lights were flashing. The host announced the start of the party and signaled for everyone to be quiet. Then he asked everyone to applaud for tonight's main character, Tong Tong, who was wearing a dazzling long dress and a birthday crown that had been prepared beforehand. At least at this moment, she was really the most stunning beauty tonight. The host asked Tong Tong to say a few words. Tong Tong took the microphone and said a few simple words, such as thanking everyone for coming to her birthday party and for giving her so many gifts. She hoped that everyone would have a good time here tonight and so on. Next, several of Tong Tong's best friends brought out the birthday cake. Everyone helped Tong Tong light the candles. The music stopped and the lights went out. Everyone sang the happy birthday song at the same time. Tong Tong closed her eyes and made a wish quietly. When everyone finished singing the happy birthday song, Tong Tong also opened her eyes. Everyone blew out the candles together. The music started and the party began. Unfortunately, Qin Shing's allies, Ma Weiyang and Zhu Jiao, did not arrive at this time. They were stuck on the road. Zhu Jiao was so angry that he scolded, "What kind of F***king road is this? How can we gamble like this? Even if I walk, we will almost arrive. Sister Ponytail, what should we do? If we are late, what if my cousin is bullied? How can I explain to my cousin later?" Ma Weiyang said calmly, "Don't worry. I guess the birthday party hasn't started yet." "Sister Ponytail, how can I not worry? What time is it? My cousin only took my sister-in-law there today. If they fight, no one will help them," Zhu Jiao said anxiously. Ma Weiyang laughed and said, "How do you know they will fight? Why do I feel that you can't wait to fight? F***ck, I don't care. Whoever dares to bully my cousin, I will definitely take action. If I can take action, I won't say anything," Zhu Jiao said fiercely. Ma Weiyang laughed and said, "Jiao, think about it carefully. Those who are going tonight are not ordinary people. Are you really not afraid of offending them? What's there to be afraid of? Anyway, I am in Shanghai. If they are not happy, they can come to Shanghai to take revenge. They can watch me trample them to death. At worst, the elders will help me clean up the mess. Anyway, I am standing up for my cousin. If they don't care about me, I will go to my grandmother and make a scene." Zhu Jiao had already thought of a solution. Ma Weiyang nodded and said, "Not bad. You have a temper. I am starting to like you. Sister Ponytail, we are not suitable for each other. I don't like relationships between older people and younger people, Zhu Jiao said. Ma Weiyang pinched Zhu Jiao and said, at this time, you still want to take advantage of me. Oh right, we are talking about my cousin, right? Driver, can you hurry up? If you can't do it, we will crash into him, Zhu Jiao said incoherently. Ma Weiyang was somewhat helpless. How could this guy be a little devil? Fortunately, he was suppressed by his family in Shanghai. Otherwise, she did not know how much trouble he would cause. She had to persuade him and said, okay, don't worry. I have an informant there. Everything is fine now. After Zhu Jiao heard that, he patted his thigh and said, oh, my sister, why didn't you tell me earlier? You made me worry for nothing. That's good, that's good. Ma Weiyang did not know whether to laugh or cry. No wonder Qin Ran sent such a helper to her. He was so lawless. However, this was also true. Although Qin Sheng and Zhu Jiao were both nephews of the Zhu family, Zhu Jiao's father was now in the limelight. In addition, Zhu Jiao's family was not like the Qin family, who did not have any contact with the old lady. At that time, when Zhu Jiao was angry, others who wanted to fight with him would really have to weigh their own strength. At the birthday party, the atmosphere was very lively with the help of the DJ and others. Everyone had a good time and chatted congenially. However, they were limited to each other's circle. Even if they knew each other, they just greeted each other at most. Qin Sheng was introduced to Song Ruyu's bosom friend circle. It was the first time for most of them to meet Qin Sheng. In the past, they were only curious about him and heard rumors. Today, they finally saw him in person. Apart from the current situation of the Qin family, they felt that Qin Sheng was not as bad as the rumors said. At least, he left a good impression on them. This was also a measure taken by Song Ryu to protect Qin Sheng. At least those people would not dare to make trouble for Qin Sheng unscrupulously. However, Qin Sheng did not like to be surrounded by a group of women. It was boring to listen to all kinds of gossip, so he found a chance to sneak out of the bathroom. Moreover, he did not want to escape anything. Otherwise, he would have come here tonight in vain. Everyone was staring at Qin Sheng's whereabouts. So when Qin Sheng went to the bathroom, many people had a chance. As soon as he came out of the bathroom, Chen Taihe finally could not help but directly choose to attack. Chapter 952. Gang up and attack him. Although Qin Sheng and Song Ryu had come here together tonight, their target was only Qin Sheng. No one dared to offend Song Ryu, not to mention Song Ryu's background. The main reason was that Song Husheng was also here tonight. No one dared to provoke Song Husheng, who would lose more than they gained. After all, everyone now knew that Song Husheng hated this future brother-in-law very much and firmly refused the marriage. That was why they dared to target Qin Sheng tonight. They knew that Song Husheng would not intervene and would even stop Song Ryu. Otherwise, if Song Ryu intervened forcibly, the show would fail. After all, they could not directly target Song Ryu. Since the beginning of the birthday party, everyone had been keeping an eye on Qin Sheng. However, they did not expect him to be so smart. He had been following Song Ryu all the time, making it impossible for them to find a chance to attack him. It would be too unscrupulous for them to pick a fight with Song Ryu directly. Therefore, they had been waiting for an opportunity for Qin Sheng to be alone. After Qin Sheng came out of the bathroom, he did not hurry to go back to Song Ryu. Instead, he deliberately strolled by the pool. At this time, a rich playboy from Chen Taihe's team walked over with a glass of wine in his hand. He directly stopped Qin Sheng and said, "Hey, isn't this Qin Sheng? Long time no see. Let's have a drink." Qin Sheng did not know the man in front of him. He was a little surprised and asked, "Who are you? Do we know each other?" "Although you don't know me, I know you. You beat up my brother in the equestrian club in the suburbs some time ago." "I've been looking for you," the man who was dressed in fancy clothes said bluntly. Qin Shing sneered and said, "Who is your brother?" "Sorry, I forgot." Qin Shing's words did not irritate the man. He knew that the man in front of him was here to find fault. If he did not give him a chance, how could he continue the show? After hearing Qin Shing's words, the man was not angry. Instead, he laughed and said, "It doesn't matter if you forget. Anyway, I will remember it. If you drink this glass of wine, I will pretend that nothing happened. What do you think?" After saying that, the man picked up a bottle of red wine from the table next to him and filled Qin Shing's glass directly. He looked at Qin Shing provocatively. Since the man came over, many people had been staring at this side. It did not occur to them that Chen Taihe would take action first. After waiting for a whole night, there was finally something interesting to watch. At this moment, everyone was looking forward to it. They obviously felt the smell of gunpowder here, but no one took the initiative to come over to ease the tension. Song Ruyu was far away, and she was surrounded by her girlfriends, so she didn't notice what was going on. "What if I don't drink?" Qin Shing directly put the glass on the table next to him and directly refused. The man's attitude was also very tough as he said, "If you don't drink it, it means that you don't give me face." "Who are you? Do we know each other? Why should I give you face?" Qin Shing replied stubbornly. This sentence completely ignited the man's anger. He put down the glass in his hand and pushed Qin Shing fiercely without any warning. It should be known that the man had some martial arts skills. He knew Taekwondo and Sanda. The push was already very strong. At this moment, Qin Shing was standing by the side of the pool. If he was not prepared, he would be directly pushed into the pool, which would be really embarrassing. However, the man underestimated Qin Shing. After the man came to find trouble, Qin Shing had been very vigilant. He was afraid that these guys would use some dirty tricks. It did not occur to him that they would be so direct. Consequently, when the man took action, Qin Shing grabbed the man's shoulder fiercely and turned around to divert the force. In this way, he cleverly dodged the man's attack. On the contrary, he pushed the man into the pool. With a bang, the man fell into the pool, causing a splash, which instantly attracted a lot of people's attention. Many of those who had been staring at this side were somewhat disappointed, especially Chen Taihe's friends. It did not occur to them that the one who fell into the pool was one of their own instead of Qin Shing. This made it less fun. However, no matter who fell into the pool, everything was within their plan. After the man fell into the pool, he shouted at the same time, F***CKU. After this shout, such a big movement finally attracted everyone's attention. All the people on Chen Taihe's side rushed over to help without hesitation. They were ready to surround Qin Shing and attack him together. Song Ryu also heard the movement over there. She could not help but frown and ask, "What's going on?" She had been a little worried about what would happen tonight. Moreover, Qin Shing had been out for so long and had not come back yet. She could not guarantee that something would happen. Therefore, after hearing the movement over there, she asked in a hurry. Someone saw that Qin Shing was in conflict with others. He hurriedly told Song Ryu, "It seems that Qin Shing is in conflict with others." Hearing this, Song Ryu's expression changed instantly. She immediately stood up and was ready to rush over to see what was going on. However, at this time, Song Hushing stood in front of Song Ryu and said bluntly, "Ryu, you'd better not go over there. Otherwise, you will also be implicated. This is between Qin Shing and them. It has nothing to do with you." Song Ryu asked loudly, "Song Hushing, what happened tonight really has something to do with you. What do you mean?" It did not occur to all the people present that Song Ryu and Song Hushing would actually have a conflict. This was out of everyone's expectation. They did not know what was going on. However, in order to avoid the disaster of the city gate and the embarrassment of the brother and sister, they all stood up and left one after another. After all, the scene over there was more interesting. Song Hushing explained with a smile, "This has nothing to do with me. I just know what happened." Qin Sheng offended Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe. That's why they want to make trouble for him tonight. If you go there now, it will only make things worse. It's better to let Qin Sheng solve it himself. Song Ryu did not bother to explain and directly shouted, "Get out of my way." Song Hushing replied calmly, "What if I don't? I'm your brother. Tonight, you have to listen to me, even if you don't want to recognize me." Upon hearing this, Song Ryu stared at Song Hushing. It did not occur to her that Song Hushing was actually such a person. In order to stop her marriage with Qin Sheng, he had resorted to all kinds of means. He just wanted to see Qin Sheng make a fool of himself. However, she would not allow it. On the other side, Chen Taihe and the others had already started to quarrel with Qin Sheng. They directly surrounded Qin Sheng and questioned him sternly. "Qin Sheng, what do you mean?" Qin Sheng smiled disapprovingly and said, "What do I mean? Are you asking me or him?" Chen Taihe sneered and said, "Qin Sheng, last time in the equestrian club, I didn't make a fuss about it because we often see each other. However, you have provoked me again and again. Do you really not take me seriously?" Qin Sheng responded with a smile, "Chen Taihe, you are a relatively famous person among the younger generation in Siju City. If you really want to deal with me, you don't have to use such childish means. You know better than anyone else what is going on." Since Chen Taihe had already taken action, how could Su Xingwei just stand by and do nothing? Su Xingwei walked over slowly with several of his friends and said, "Wow, I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be the first young Master Qin of Siju City. I heard that in order to save his family from disaster, first young Master Qin abandoned his girlfriend, who was far away in Shanghai, and pursued the talented girl of the Song family in Siju City. No wonder he is so arrogant." As for the trivial things about Qin Sheng, many people definitely did not know. However, Su Xingwei knew it better than anyone else. He wanted to ruin Qin Sheng, so he directly made it public and let everyone know what kind of person Qin Sheng was on earth. Someone immediately echoed Su Xingwei's words and said, "Yes, I heard that the girl accompanied the first young Master Qin to suffer a lot. Now, the first young Master Qin abandoned the girl for the sake of the family alliance. The girl cried so hard that she almost committed suicide." After hearing this, everyone burst into an uproar, no matter whether it was true or not. Upon hearing this, Qin Sheng's face became extremely gloomy. It did not occur to him that these people would be so vicious. They wanted to kill him completely. He pushed away the man in front of him, walked slowly to Su Xingwei and the others, and said, "Su Xingwei, say it again." Su Xingwei said with a smile, "Let me say it again. What did you do to deserve it? Why are you not going to admit it?" Then he looked at Chen Taihe and said, "Lao Chen, Qin Sheng has latched onto the Song family's thigh. Song Hushing is also here tonight. Be careful, he will get even with you later." After Su Xingwei finished his words, Chen Taihe immediately replied, "Child Su, it's impossible. I heard that Song Hushing did not like someone at all, but someone wanted to be close to him shamelessly. In order to pursue Song Hushing's younger sister, he really used all kinds of means. It's a pity that the talented girl of the Song family met the wrong person." In order to deal with Qin Sheng, Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe cooperated well with each other. Qin Sheng was going to be attacked by a group of people. It was up to Qin Sheng to deal with it. However, at this moment, Qin Ran and Ma Weiyang finally arrived. The moment they arrived at the door, Ma Weiyang's informant told her that there was already a disturbance here. Consequently, Zhu Jiao almost ran all the way here. Before he got close to them, he directly shouted, "F***CK, are you bullying my cousin? Do you think that you have more people? Come on." Battlefield Literature. Chapter 953. Tonight's situation was set up for Qin Shing. Those who were supposed to show up were about to show up. First, they set up a trap for Qin Shing. Whether Qin Shing fell into it or not, he would attract everyone's attention. Then, they attacked him together. Qin Shing was only one person. How could he deal with so many people? Now, Qin Shing's reinforcements finally arrived. They were Ma Weiyang and Zhu Jiao. Although there were only two of them, it was enough. Because Ma Weiyang's background could control the situation, no one dared to go too far. As for Zhu Jiao, he could be a spoiler. Tonight, he could be a domineering bully. Even if there was a fight and trouble, he could also rush forward. Zhu Jiao pushed through the crowd and rushed in. When he saw Qin Shing being surrounded, he felt sorry and said, "Cousin, I'm late. Whoever dares to bully you tonight, I'll fight him to death. Let's see who dares to come." Most of the people present did not know Zhu Jiao. After all, Zhu Jiao often came to Beijing when he was a child. Since his grandmother moved to Shanghai, the number of times he came to Beijing every year could be counted on one's fingers. Most of the time, he stayed in Shanghai. Usually, he was more strict and less domineering. However, there were still people who knew Zhu Jiao. He Quan even called Qin Shing cousin. "Who is this guy?" The crowd murmured at the same time. At the same time, they asked each other if they knew each other. Someone who was reckless shouted subconsciously, "Who the hell are you?" Zhu Jiao did not care who he was. Anyway, Sister Ponytail had already shown him the photos of those who he could not fight with tonight. It was just that those who had strong backgrounds. It was not that he did not dare to provoke them. It was just that he could not provoke them. After all, there were more troubles to clean up after them. But this guy was not one of them. So this guy was also unlucky to run into Zhu Jiao's muzzle. Zhu Jiao was worried about how to vent his anger. Seeing this guy stand out, he walked over unhurriedly and slapped him in the face. At the same time, he shouted, "My name is Zhu Jiao, and I come from Shanghai. Do you hear me?" No one had expected that Qing Yaojin, who had appeared out of nowhere, would be so arrogant that he directly started to beat people without saying anything. However, the crowd also heard Zhu Jiao's name, especially that he was from Shanghai. Coupled with the fact that he had called Qin Shing as his cousin just now, they instantly understood Zhu Jiao's identity. He was Zhu Changshuan's son and Zhu Weigua's nephew, which was much more precious than Qin Shing's identity. Originally, the guy who had been slapped wanted to fight back. No one could swallow this insult after being slapped in front of everyone. However, before he could do anything, two people directly pulled him back and whispered something in his ear. After hearing that, the guy's expression changed instantly. After thinking for a while, he finally chose to let it go. In addition, the two people next to him kept persuading him, which could be considered as giving him a way out. After this guy was pulled away, the rest of the people on the scene already knew Zhu Jiao's identity. Zhu Jiao was taking the initiative to make the fight happen. Anyway, even if he suffered a loss, it would be fine. He could get back at them later. Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe looked at each other and didn't know how to deal with this little devil. They couldn't attack him directly. Otherwise, they would have to pay a big price. At that time, they would not only have to face Zhu Jiao, but also several other childs of the Zhu family. However, Zhu Jiao did not stop there. He pressed on and said, "Anyone else? Who dares to insult my cousin? Come out and try to say it again. I want to see how awesome you are." It did not occur to Qin Shing that Zhu Jiao would come here. It did not occur to him that this guy would be so domineering. As soon as he came up, Zhu Jiao directly took action. Compared to him, Zhu Jiao was much more direct. It seemed that he had not doted on this guy for nothing. At the critical moment, he was quite powerful. At this time, Ma Weiyang also arrived late. She said angrily, "Yo, why are there so many acquaintances here tonight? Are they here to watch the fun or to make trouble? So many people bullied my younger brother. What kind of people are they? If they are capable, come at me. I want to see who has the guts to do so. Well, Zhu Jiao, the little devil, was already a headache. Now Ma Weiyang, the queen with a bad temper, was also here. In this case, it was more suitable that no one dared to provoke Zhu Jiao anymore. It did not occur to them that this down-and-out child had so many helpers. Zhu Jiao pointed at Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe on purpose and said, "Sister Ponytail, it seems that these people are here. Do you know them?" Ma Weiyang cooperated and said, "Of course. How could I not know them? They are famous in Siju City. You are far away from them in Shanghai. It is normal that you don't know them. So, come to Beijing when you are free in the future. I will introduce you to these brothers and sisters." Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe looked at each other. It did not occur to them that things would develop in this way. It seemed that they had made a mistake. They should have expected it. After all, it was such a big scene. It was impossible for Qin Xing to sit still and wait for death. Zhu Jiao said happily, "Okay, sister. I will come often in the future." Ma Weiyang turned around and walked to Qin Xing. She patted his shoulder and said in a low voice, "Brother, don't be afraid. I will protect you." After that, Ma Weiyang walked to Chen Taihe and Su Xingwei and said, "Are you the one who did this tonight? Is it interesting?" Chen Taihe did not want to provoke Ma Weiyang, especially when he heard that Ma Weiyang's father might be re-elected. This was more powerful than anything else. No one wanted to get into trouble with her. So Chen Taihe said, "Sister Ponytail, I don't have time to do this. I am here to celebrate Tongtong's birthday tonight." Ma Weiyang looked at Su Xingwei and said, "Then it is you." Su Xingwei did not respond to Ma Weiyang. It was not that he did not dare to provoke her. He just did not want to deal with this crazy woman. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted, "What if I say it is me?" It did not occur to Ma Weiyang that someone dared to provoke her in front of everyone. She looked over subconsciously. When she saw who it was, she was not surprised. It turned out to be Song Hushing. It did not occur to her that Song Hushing hated Qin Xing so much. Ma Weiyang naturally knew Song Hushing. She was very familiar with him. So she said bluntly, "Song Hushing, is it interesting?" Song Hushing sneered and said, "What do you mean by interesting? Qin Xing cheated my sister's love. Can't I say something? Doesn't he admit that he abandoned his girlfriend in Shanghai? Do I need to say the name? Besides, this is our Song family's business. What does it have to do with you?" Song Hushing had shed all pretense of cordiality. He did not care who was present. He just wanted to ruin Qin Xing's reputation. Ma Weiyang could deal with Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe, but she did not know how to deal with Song Hushing. After all, it seemed to be true. If she went too far, others would only blame her, which put her in a difficult position. However, before Ma Weiyang could fight back, Song Ryu, who came from behind, said angrily, "Song Hushing, have you had enough? How am I not done messing around? I am your brother. This is all for your own good. I want you to know Qin Xing's true colors." "He is lying to you," Song Hushing said righteously. Song Ryu retorted, "This is my business. It has nothing to do with you. If you continue to make trouble like this, I won't call you my brother anymore. You really let me down." Facing Song Ryu, Song Hushing said, "Even if you don't want me to be your brother, I'll continue. Anyway, I won't agree to your marriage even if everyone in the Song family agrees." Song Hushing looked at Song Ryu and said without hesitation. Song Ryu was really a little confused tonight because of Song Hushing's anger. She did not expect that Song Hushing would do this. She had to walk to Qin Xing with red eyes, held his hand and said, "Qin Xing, let's go." Song Hushing still blocked their way recklessly. He said with a sullen face, "You can go, but Qin Xing can't. I have something to discuss with him." The others present did not dare to intervene. This was completely an internal affair between the Qin family and the Song family. Anyway, they were just onlookers, so they continued to watch. Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe were complacent. Fortunately, Song Husheng stood out at the last moment. Otherwise, they would have come here in vain. It seemed that the enemy's fortress had to be broken from the inside. This time, Qin Sheng did not let Song Ryu stand out. He faced Song Husheng and said, "We will deal with each other later. I will only say this once. Get out of my way." "What if I don't?" Song Husheng did not take Qin Sheng seriously at all. He sneered. Qin Sheng did not talk nonsense. He immediately stepped forward and grabbed Song Husheng's shoulder. Before Song Husheng came to his senses, Qin Sheng suddenly exerted force on his feet and directly threw Song Husheng into the swimming pool. The poor Song Husheng flew away just like that. All the people present were in an uproar. At this time, Qin Sheng directly left with Song Ryu. Chapter 954. The farce finally came to an end. People from all walks of life showed up one after another. The Qin family and the Song family suffered losses. Song Husheng would definitely be punished for what he had done tonight. Song Husheng had been thrown into the swimming pool. It was estimated that he would become the biggest joke in Siju City recently. Qin Sheng could not be blamed for this. If he had not been really angry, he would not have done this. After all, this would have put Song Husheng in a very difficult position. However, Song Husheng was so aggressive. Qin Sheng could not blame Song Husheng for this. He had no choice but to do this. Since Song Husheng was heartless, he could not be blamed. It had never occurred to Qin Sheng that Song Husheng would be so unscrupulous and even disown his sister, Song Ryu, in order to stop him from doing this. Song Ryu had tried her best to control her emotions, but Song Husheng continued to challenge her bottom line. In the end, Qin Sheng could only clean up the mess. Anyway, Song Husheng did not recognize him as his brother-in-law, so he did not need to take him seriously anymore. Qin Sheng wanted to leave. Song Husheng had already served as a warning, so naturally, no one dared to continue to stop them. This Qin Sheng even dared to throw a person like Song Husheng into the swimming pool, so naturally, he did not take them seriously. He was really crazy and arrogant enough. Tonight, he really became famous after this fight. Tomorrow, Qin Sheng's name would go one step further, but no one knew if it was good or bad. After Qin Sheng left, Ma Weiyang and Zhu Jiao naturally followed him and left. Poor Ma Weiyang and Zhu Jiao, who had been stuck in a traffic jam for a long time, had to leave after staying for less than 10 minutes. They would definitely blackmail Qin Ran later. The others also left one after another. Anyway, the birthday party was coming to an end. The real protagonists had all left, so there was no more fun to watch. It was better to leave first. Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe cast a sidelong glance at Song Husheng, who had fallen into the pool, and left while holding back their laughter. They had to leave as soon as possible so that Song Husheng would not vent his anger on them. Anyway, their purpose tonight had been achieved. Song Husheng's friends were also helping him get out of the pool. At this moment, Song Husheng was on the verge of going berserk. On their way out, Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe said half-jokingly, "If Song Husheng had not shown up at the end tonight, all our previous efforts would have been in vain. Fortunately, we achieved our goal. Now, Qin Sheng will have a bad reputation in Siju City. That's why I said we still have to rely on Lao Song. He's a ruthless person. When he's ruthless, he won't even acknowledge his own sister. Look at us, we can't do it," Chen Taihe said cheerfully. Su Xingwei sighed with emotion and said, "It's still a bit disappointing. If Ma Weiyang and Zhu Jiao hadn't appeared halfway, Qin Sheng's name would have spread far and wide. Let's see how he could show off in Siju City in the future. Even if he married Song Ryu, so what?" Chen Taihe echoed as he said, "We should be content with what we have. As long as he is still in Siju City, he will have many opportunities in the future. After all, we don't need to offend Ma Weiyang and Zhu Jiao. Su Xingwei was silent. He nodded and said, "You're right." Chen Taihe frowned and said, "But if we do so, we will definitely offend many people." Su Xingwei said disapprovingly, "Haven't we offended enough people?" In a delicious restaurant in Wangjing, after Qin Sheng and Song Ruyu came back from Shuani, Ma Weiyang asked them to come here for supper. It was estimated that they had not eaten much tonight. No matter what had happened, the most important thing was to fill their stomach. If they were in a bad mood, they could drink a few more glasses of wine. Ma Weiyang said indignantly, "What happened tonight must have been planned by Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe. I really didn't expect that they would collude with each other." The Qin family was already in a difficult situation. Who would have thought that so many people would hit them when they were down? Qin Sheng was not surprised as he said, "As long as there is a common enemy, there will be common interests. Last time in the equestrian club in the suburbs, I had a conflict with Chen Taihe. He has been holding a grudge against me. It is only a matter of time that he will make trouble for me. As for Su Xingwei, it is even simpler. The Su family has been standing on the opposite side of the Qin family in the Chang'an group. Naturally, Su Xingwei will try his best to deal with me." Zhu Jiao muttered, "Cousin, you don't have to worry about this. Next time I meet them, I will beat them up for you. As for what will happen later, we will talk about it later. They have gone too far." If Sister Ponytail had not told him on the way that he should follow her arrangement, he would have beaten up Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe instead of that man. Since he had chosen to go there tonight, Qin Sheng knew what might happen. He had already thought of the worst result, which was far from the worst result. So he did not take it seriously. It was nothing more than slandering him. The only thing that made him a little angry was Song Hushing. Song Hushing really disgusted him. He used to admire Song Hushing, but now he hated Song Hushing very much, even more than Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe. He was so selfish that he did not care about Song Ruyu's thoughts and feelings at all. He only cared about whether he was satisfied or not. "Did I abandon your ancestors in my previous life? You don't have to worry about these things. By the way, why did you come here all of a sudden?" Qin Sheng asked curiously. Ma Weiyang explained honestly, "It's because of the big commotion tonight. Too many people know about it. Many people are here to watch the fun. So someone told your sister and she asked me to come here with Jiao. She doesn't want to make things worse. Otherwise, it won't be just the two of us who will come here." Qin Sheng nodded silently and said, "Oh, I see." Ma Weiyang continued, "To be honest, I can understand why Su Xingwei and Chen Taihe bullied you. But I did not expect Song Hushing to be such a person. If I meet him next time, I will definitely curse him to death." Qin Sheng said, "Sister Ponytail, it's over. Let's not talk about it. I know he has feelings for me." Qin Sheng shook his head. He did not want to talk about it. After all, Song Ruyu was here, which made Song Ruyu feel embarrassed. He was absent-minded at this moment. Zhu Jiao was sensible and said, "Brothers and sisters, let's not talk about these annoying things. Let's eat meat and drink wine. It's better than anything else." Ma Weiyang patted Zhu Jiao's head and said, "You are really good at talking. I really like you. Come to Beijing more often in the future. I will take you out more often." "Okay, Sister Ponytail, I'll come often. Just don't bother me," Zhu Jiao said with a smile. After supper, everyone left. They didn't drink much wine, just 2 bottles each. Even Song Ruyu drank 1 bottle. Zhu Jiao and Ma Weiyang left together. Zhu Jiao sent Song Ruyu home first. He guessed that his sister and aunt were already waiting for him at home. On the way back, Song Ruyu seemed to be a little tired. She took the initiative to lean on Qin Sheng's shoulder and blamed herself. "I'm sorry." "Why are you apologizing? You're not to blame for what happened tonight. It's Song Hushing's fault. You've tried your best. It's just that Song Hushing is a little crazy." Qin Sheng subconsciously held Song Ryu's hand and comforted her. Song Ryu knew that Qin Sheng would not say anything, but he definitely felt uncomfortable in his heart. If it were Su Xingwei or Chen Taihe, Qin Sheng could ignore it. However, Song Husheng was her brother, and Qin Sheng had to care about her feelings. However, Qin Sheng threw Song Husheng into the swimming pool in the end, which surprised Song Ryu. It seemed that Qin Sheng was really angry. "I'll have a good talk with him later," Song Ryu said. No matter what, Song Husheng was her brother after all, and she couldn't deny it. However, she would definitely tell her family about it, and they would definitely punish Song Husheng. Qin Sheng frowned and said, "There's nothing to say. If he wants to hurt me, I'll just wait." Alas. Song Ryu sighed and didn't know what to say. Half an hour later, Qin Sheng sent Song Ryu to her apartment. When he was about to leave, Song Ryu took the initiative to invite him. "You haven't been to my house yet, right? Come up and have a seat." Qin Sheng was a little surprised and subconsciously froze for a few seconds. He didn't know what Song Ryu meant, but he didn't let his imagination run wild. After all, Song Ryu was not a casual person, and he didn't want to make too much progress with her. "What's wrong?" Song Ryu didn't think too much. However, seeing Qin Sheng's reaction, she seemed to think of something and blushed in embarrassment. After coming to his senses, Qin Sheng felt that it was not a big deal. After all, they were going to be engaged soon. Besides, he just wanted to go up and have a seat. In the end, he agreed. When Qin Sheng and Song Ryu went home, the fight in Dalian had already started. Gongsun and Nangong didn't need to think too much to know that it must be Song Shixin's doing. Chapter 955. There were not many people in Dalian. There were only Debao, Erbao, and a housekeeper who did the cleaning and cooking. The housekeeper would get off work at 7 o'clock in the evening. She lived in a nearby community, not far from here. Both of his daughters had married in other places, so they had nothing to do most of the time, so they found such a leisurely job. As for Debao and Erbao, although they lived here, they had other things to do most of the time. If Gongsun and Nangong did not come to Dalian, they would not come here often unless their master, Zhuangzhou, returned to Dalian. Therefore, this single courtyard was usually quite quiet. Who would have thought that the arrival of Gongsun and Nangong would break the tranquility and actually attract these extremely audacious demons and monsters? They really did not want to live anymore after provoking the Tai Sui. Although Debao and Erbao often bickered for fun and wanted to talk to beautiful women like Nangong, they would not hesitate when it came to serious business. This courtyard almost never had a power outage all year round, even in the summer. After all, China was not like those Southeast Asian countries, especially Brother Asen, who could drink a bowl of Ganges River water. Therefore, it was definitely not normal for the power to suddenly go out at night. Following the movements, everyone knew that danger was coming. Debao and Erbao had a clear division of labor. One went to the front yard and the other went to the backyard. With their strength, they naturally had to kill the danger. Otherwise, if something happened to Gongsun and Nangong here, it would be difficult to explain to their master. After Debao went to the front yard, he immediately saw a figure swaying in front of the door. Without hesitation, he rushed up. He wanted to see who was so audacious to actually dare to cause trouble here. It seemed like he didn't want to live anymore. The figure could not tell whether it was a man or a woman, but it did not run away. It actually gave Debao a provocative middle finger. Although there was no light due to the power outage, the moonlight tonight was not bad. Therefore, how could Debao not see the other party's gesture clearly? This made Debao even more angry. Damn it, this bully is too much. Therefore, Zhao Debao rushed over without hesitation. He didn't even greet him. He directly kicked the other party's face. "If I don't beat you to the ground and call you daddy, I'm not Zhao Debao." Seeing that Zhao Debao was coming at him aggressively, the opponent did not dare to face him head-on. He chose to take 2 steps back, and when Debao landed on the ground, he lifted his knee and slammed it. The opponent's speed was not very fast, so Debao did not take it seriously. He fiercely stomped his foot and directly grabbed the opponent's knee, then with a loud roar, he threw the opponent away. Only now did the other party feel the threat of Debao and no longer dared to underestimate him. Otherwise, he would definitely die here tonight. Thus, after getting up, he chose to avoid Debao's attacks and focus on defense. Debao could already tell that the other party was a man. If he didn't have the strength to provoke him, then he was just courting death. Debao couldn't take this lying down, so he charged forward once more. This time, it was a close-range fight. It all depended on whose fist was harder. After they collided, Debao's fist landed on the opponent's shoulder, followed by a series of punches. Each punch was stronger than the one before, and the opponent was forced to retreat step by step. He didn't even have a chance to defend himself. He really didn't know where this guy got the courage to pick a fight with him. Debao was more cautious at first, thinking that this kid was deliberately pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. However, after such a long time, Debao felt that the opponent was definitely not pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. He was just a pig opponent. Therefore, Debao didn't continue to fight. He grabbed the opponent and threw him away, determined to subdue him. The man did not expect Debao to be so strong. If this continued, he would definitely be played to death. When that time came, it would be terrible if he was caught. However, when he thought about the people who were here, he stood up and pointed his middle finger at Debao again. When Debao was angered, the man turned around and ran without hesitation. Ran away? He ran away just like that? Debao was somewhat dumbfounded, but he definitely wouldn't let the man run away just like that. What kind of place did he think this was? That he could come and go as he pleased? Watch how I won't kill you when I catch you. Therefore, Debao chased after him. Because the backyard was near the sea, no matter who it was, there wasn't much opportunity to hide. When Debao arrived at the backyard, he felt that something was wrong. Just as he was feeling puzzled, there was suddenly a flash of cold light. This was the reflection of the moonlight. Debao subconsciously took 2 steps back, only to see a dagger brush past his ear. Debao broke out in a cold sweat, but he wasn't frightened by this. He quickly closed in and charged at the opponent. No matter who he was tonight, if he dared to come here tonight, he wouldn't be able to leave. This was Debao's subconscious thought. Unexpectedly, the opponent didn't seem to be in a hurry. He fought and retreated at the same time. In the end, he even ran a distance before launching a counterattack. Debao didn't think about this at all. He didn't know that he had already fallen into a trap. Whether it was Debao or Debao, because they wanted to take down the opponent, they had already fallen into the opponent's trap. Because the opponent's target was not them, but Gong Sun and Nangong, the 2 guests who came from afar. In the living room, Gong Sun was still sitting there, unmoved. Nangong stood there quietly, guarding Mr. Gong Sun. She only had one task in Dalian, which was to protect Mr. Gong Sun. Other things had nothing to do with her. However, if someone wanted to harm Mr. Gong Sun, then they couldn't blame her. After Debao and Debao were transferred away, it didn't take long for other movements in the living room. A man wearing a hat slowly walked into the living room. He came alone, without anyone following him. However, since he was so confident, his strength was naturally not simple. Otherwise, he would just be courting death. After hearing the movement, Nangong subconsciously wanted to take action, but Gong Sun waved his hand to signal her to stay still. The man entered the living room, but did not approach Gong Sun and Nangong. After a few steps, he stopped, looked at Gong Sun, and said, "Mr. Gong Sun, Dalian is not a place where you should be. You'd better go back. Did Song Shirshin send you here, Or someone else? Gongsun said calmly. The man laughed and said, Mr. Gongsun, you don't have to ask who it is. I'm just here to persuade you. Otherwise, if you stay for too long, I'm afraid you will be in danger. Are you threatening me? I'm afraid Song Shirshin doesn't have the guts. Who gave Song Shirshin the confidence? Gongsun said disdainfully. Now that the Qin family was in danger, Song Shirshin could indeed hit them when they were down. However, Gongsun absolutely did not believe that he would dare to be so unscrupulous. The only explanation was that someone was supporting him from behind. In that case, who would support Song Shirshin to betray the Qin family? Of course, it was the Qin family's enemy. The man sneered and said, Mr. Gongsun, I'm reminding you out of kindness. I don't mean to threaten you. After all, this is Dalian, not Beijing. You'd better think carefully before you speak, in case you regret it later. Song Shirshin is just a dog of the Qin family. When did a dog dare to talk to its master like this? Has he grown up or has he been a local tyrant for too long? Does he think that no one dares to do anything to him? Go back and tell Song Shirshin that if he doesn't want to die too quickly, he should be a coward. If he really wants to change his master, he has to ask whether the real master agrees or not. Gongsun said confidently. This time, he came to Dalian to solve Song Shirshin's problem. If Song Shirshin was a coward, it would be okay. If not, he had a way to make Song Shirshin get out of the Qin family. Of course, the premise was that he would get nothing. After listening to Gongsun's words, the man frowned and said, Is this your answer? This is not my answer. This is the Qin family's response. How dare an insignificant Song Shirshin show off in front of the Qin family? If it weren't for the fact that the Qin family has been so busy recently, do you think he would have the guts to act recklessly? But don't forget that a skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. How dare an insignificant ant like him jump out and make trouble? He thinks that he is so arrogant because he has latched onto someone's thigh. He is just a chess piece that can be sacrificed at any time. Let him think carefully and see me later. Gongsun continued. The man laughed and said, Okay, Mr. Gongsun, I will definitely tell you. I just hope that you won't regret it. Get out of here. I won't kill you today. Next time you come, it won't be so easy for you to leave. Gongsun waved his hand and said. He was just a small fry. He was not in the mood to deal with him. The man did not hesitate. This time, he came to give a warning. Similarly, it would not be him who came next time. However, when the man just turned around and was about to leave, Nangong was already standing in front of him. The man's expression changed instantly, but he forced himself to be calm. He heard Nangong say gloomily, Since you are here, you have to bring some gifts back, don't you? Before the man came back to his senses, the dagger in Nangong's hand had already been inserted into the man's shoulder. The man's heart-wrenching roar could be heard. Unfortunately, he was kicked out of the living room by Nangong. She had thought that the man was a powerful man who came alone, but he was just a piece of trash. The man turned pale with fright. In the end, he fled. Chapter 956. This man's strength shouldn't be too bad. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to show off unless there was a hole in his head. However, he was facing Nangong and Gongsun. Nangong was the card on the surface, while Gongsun was the hidden card. This was because Gongsun hadn't fought for many years. Everyone was almost done for. This old man used to be very powerful. Over the years, most of the time, only this man stayed by Qin Chang'an's side. Maybe because Qin Chang'an's level was getting higher and higher, no one dared to attack him unscrupulously. So most of the time, Gongsun was idle and took care of the Qin family quietly, so that everyone gradually forgot about him and thought that he was just an ordinary old housekeeper of the Qin family. They did not know that most of the Qin family's current foundation was built by Gongsun. Maybe the achievements of the Chang, and family were too dazzling, so others also forgot the Qin family's own strength. However, what Gong Sun did not expect was that these people, who had been cultivated by him, now dared to take the risk of betraying the Qin family. They were really ambitious. Gong Sun naturally would not allow such people to exist, so now he personally dealt with the traitor. After the man ran away, Nangong said indignantly, "Uncle Gong Sun, did you let him go just like that? He is just a small fry. We don't need to vent our anger on him. Otherwise there will be some small troubles. Remember, the purpose of our coming to Dalian this time is to solve the problem of Song Shirshin. Everything else is secondary," Gong Sun said bluntly. If he could not even deal with Song Shirshin, he would not be able to explain to Qin Sheng when he went back. Nangong asked curiously, "Uncle Gong Sun, what should we do next?" "Don't worry. Wait until I find out who Song Shirshin has seen recently, then I will know who is supporting Song Shirshin," Gong Sun said slowly. How could Song Shirshin not have his own people around him? Qin Chang'an did not have time to worry about these small things, but the Qin family's affairs were all handled by Gong Sun. How could he let these elders be the local tyrants? Naturally, he had already placed spies around them, but he had not contacted these spies yet. Who knew that Song Shirshin could not sit still anymore? After the two of them finished talking about these things, Debao and Bao rushed back. They were not really stupid. After going out for a while, they felt that something was wrong. Wasn't this a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain? After they left, only Mr. Gong Sun and Nangong Meiji were left in the courtyard. These people's target was obviously Mr. Gong Sun and Nangong Meiji. It was definitely not for them. If it was for them, they would have made a move long ago. Why would they choose this time? After they came to their senses, they hurried back and met outside the yard. After chatting for a while, they were all shocked and rushed to the living room. Seeing that Mr. Gong Sun and Nangong Meiji were safe and sound, they heaved a sigh of relief. Debao said with some lingering fear, "It scared me. I thought they were trying to lure us away. Fortunately, they are all right." Gong Sun smiled faintly and said, "It's just a diversion. That's why you've fallen into the trap. You call yourselves tigers? I really don't know how Uncle Zhuang Zhou teaches you. Hurry up and fix the circuit." Nangong Meiji snorted coldly. After that, she went straight back to her room to rest. It was estimated that nothing else would happen tonight. Debao and Bao looked at each other and were a little confused. What did Nangong Meiji mean? Why was she so hot-tempered? Weren't they fine? Bao could not help but ask, "Mr. Gong Sun, what on earth happened?" Since Gong Sun had nothing to do, he told them what had happened. After listening to the end, the two of them were a little stunned. They had thought that Nangong Meiji was a weak girl who was not strong enough to truss a chicken. At most, she was a little cold. However, weren't all beauties like that? They did not know that Nangong Meiji was a hidden master. This was a little unbelievable. After hearing this, Debao was stunned for a long time and said, "Mr. Gong Sun, do you mean that Nangong Meiji is also a master? How powerful is she?" Gong Sun did not hide it. He said with a smile, "How powerful is she? Even if you join forces, you may not be a match for her, right?" Hearing this answer, Debao and Bao did not come to their senses for a long time. Oh my God! In Song Ryu's house in Beijing. This was the first time that Qin Sheng had been to Song Ryu's house. Song Ryu had taken the initiative to invite him, which made him feel somewhat flattered. This meant that Song Ryu was accepting him more and more. The style of Song Ryu's house was very simple. It was not too luxurious, similar to that of most ordinary people's houses. It was a relatively simple style. Most of the furniture was made of logs. The only difference was that there was a huge bookshelf in the living room, which was filled with all kinds of books and materials. Even the tea table was full of books. However, they were all neatly arranged. Qin Sheng said with a smile, "There are so many books in your house." Song Ryu's biggest hobby was reading. not to mention that she often borrowed books from the library and various archives. That was why she could be so outstanding. It was because she worked hard enough. Song Ryu said naturally, "Just sit here for a while. I'm going to take a shower." She did not feel embarrassed at all. On the contrary, Qin Sheng was a little flustered. What did she mean? Was she testing him? Or did she mean something else? Qin Sheng couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Song Ryu took a bottle of water from the refrigerator and went to the master bedroom to take a shower. Qin Sheng had nothing to do, so he went through the books on Song Ryu's bookshelf. Although he liked reading, he had less and less time to read these days. He really needed to reflect on himself. Reading could help a person to have a comprehensive understanding of himself and constantly improve his cognitive ability in all aspects. Therefore, successful people would take time to read no matter how busy they were. Qin Sheng had been busy recently, so he could only take time to read occasionally. The books on Song Ryu's bookshelf covered too many genres. Most of them were historical books. There were more than 20 different books on the history of the Ming Dynasty. There were even more books on modern history, which added up to 2 whole rows. Then there were books on policy, which were the only ones that Qin Sheng could not read. It was really boring. However, how could Song Ryu calm down and read them? Moreover, Qin Sheng found many of her notes on them when he flipped through them casually, which showed that she had read them carefully. Then there were books on current affairs and politics, books on Europe, North America, South America, Central Asia and other regions. The more Qin Sheng read, the more he was stunned. Then there were books on economics and financial management, which also occupied a large number. Finally, there were books on literature and miscellaneous subjects, such as psychology and so on. Qin Sheng roughly flipped through the books and had read almost 80 to 90% of them. Almost every book had notes, and extensions. In addition, there were several notebooks on the tea table. Qin Sheng had a better understanding of how Song Ryu read books. It was said that if one had a good heart, one would naturally have a good temperament. It turned out that Song Ryu's temperament had been tempered in this way. Well, no wonder she could be so appreciated and valued by those elders and big shot. The door of the other bedroom was open. Since Qin Sheng had nothing to do, he casually looked around. When he turned on the light, Qin Sheng was completely speechless. It was not a secondary bedroom at all. It was obviously a real study which was full of books. Several walls were full of bookshelves, on which various kinds of books were placed. In the middle of the study was an ordinary desk, and the ground around the desk was also full of books. Qin Sheng was speechless. It turned out that this was Song Ryu. No wonder her life was so monotonous. Turned out that she spent all her time reading and researching. Qin Sheng admired her from the bottom of his heart. In this era, there were not many young people who could read so calmly, not to mention that she was a woman, and a beautiful one at that. Among his peers, Song Ryu was definitely the one who read the most books. Whether it was a man or a woman, she was the only one who read so much. Qin Sheng felt a little ashamed of himself. When Qin Sheng came out of the study, Song Ryu had already taken a shower and changed into a set of comfortable pajamas. It seemed that Song Ryu really didn't treat Qin Sheng as an outsider. Perhaps she was sending a signal to the outside world that no matter what others thought of her marriage with Qin Sheng, she would continue to move forward with unswerving determination. Chapter 957. Facing it calmly at this moment, Song Ryu was standing in front of Qin Sheng. She was the most genuine and casual Song Ryu. She did not keep people at arm's length, nor did she have to pretend to be an obedient girl in front of the elders. She was herself. She was just Song Ryu. In the past, Qin Sheng's impression of Song Ryu was that no matter what others said about Song Ryu's outstanding talent, how she overshadowed most of the women of her age in Siju City, how she was not inferior to men and made many men feel inferior, and how she was praised by many big shots and elders in Siju City. Qin Xing knew all of this. However, although Qin Xing knew, it was like knowing that a master was a master, but he did not know how she became a master, and what her moves were. Therefore, he treated Song Ryu the same way. He knew that Song Ryu was powerful, but he didn't know why and how. Now, Qin Xing understood everything. She was really a strange woman. "What's wrong with you?" Song Ryu asked embarrassedly when she saw Qin Xing staring at her without saying anything. Then she looked at her clothes again, and found nothing wrong with them. However, this was the first time that she had acted like this in front of a man. Qin Xing came to his senses and said, "Haha, nothing. I just feel that you seem to be more beautiful. Did you chase other girls like this before?" Song Ryu deliberately joked. Qin Xing said, "No, I was always chased by girls." "You're bragging." Song Ryu smiled. After Song Ryu sat on the sofa, Qin Xing said slowly, "Why are there so many books in your house?" "The living room is also full of books. No wonder you don't like to go to parties or go shopping. Turns out that you always read at home." "I liked reading since I was a child. Later, I began to do research. It's because of my job." Song Ryu explained honestly. She could read quietly and endure loneliness to do things. Because of this, she was appreciated by the elders. Otherwise, how could she become the student of that think tank teacher? Qin Xing said with admiration, "Have you read all these books?" "Most of them, but I didn't have time to read them." "I don't have much time to read these days," Song Ryu said with a smile. Qin Xing was a little embarrassed as he said, "It's all my fault for disturbing you." "No, it's just that I can't calm down. Besides, I also feel that my current life is a little boring. I should change my way of life. Otherwise, I'll really become a bookworm." Song Ryu covered her mouth and chuckled. Qin Xing nodded silently and said, "Well, that's true." He looked at the time again and felt that it was time to go back, so he smiled and said, "Rest early then. I'll go back first." After a moment of hesitation, Song Ryu said, "Can you wait until I fall asleep?" Qin Xing hesitated for a moment and finally nodded in agreement. In Song Ryu's boudoir, Qin Xing sat quietly at the head of the bed, holding Song Ryu's hand tightly. Song Ryu was lying on the bed, looking at Qin Xing calmly. She wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Song Ryu's bedroom was similar to that of most girls. There were many things that women liked. The only difference was that there was a stack of books at the head of the bed. She must have been reading them recently. Song Ryu couldn't help but ask again, "Are you really okay with what happened tonight?" Qin Xing shook his head and said, "All of this was aimed at me. It's just that you were implicated. If you had chosen someone else, perhaps you wouldn't have suffered these grievances. In fact, you, who are stuck in the middle, feel more uncomfortable. If anyone wants to say sorry, it should be me." "You feel wronged more," Song Ryu said lightly. Qin Xing smiled bitterly and said, "It's nothing. A man should experience more things in his life. Compared with me, a second-generation rich man who enjoys the fruits of others' labor, the grievances of my father's generation are the real grievances. It's just that I still feel a little guilty about you." "Guilty about what?" Song Ryu was confused. After thinking for a few seconds, Qin Xing said, "After I walked into your house today, I realized why so many people think that I'm not good enough for you. Now I also feel that I'm not good enough for you. It's no wonder why Song Hushing is against me. You should find a man who is more suitable for you. Until now, I still can't figure out why you agreed to this marriage." "Why? You will know the answer in the future." Song Ryu still said the same, but this time she was smiling. Qin Xing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Then I won't talk about it. Go to sleep." Song Ryu fell asleep very quickly. Even though Qin Xing was present, it didn't take long for her to fall asleep. Her sleeping posture was very elegant, like a sleeping beauty in a fairy tale. Her eyelashes flickered occasionally, and even her small mouth was so cute. Qin Sheng was about to get up and leave, but when he saw Song Ruyu like this, he was somewhat tempted. He hesitated for a moment and finally chose to take a risk. He lowered his head slowly and kissed Song Ryu's lips gently. He seemed to feel his heart beating fast, and he also thought about how to explain when Song Ryu woke up. Fortunately, the kiss went well. After getting up, Qin Sheng left with satisfaction. At this time, Song Ryu also raised the corner of her mouth slightly. It was very late when Qin Sheng returned to the West Mountain villa of the Qin family. Zhao Anji and Qin Jing had already gone to bed, but Qin Ran was still waiting for Qin Sheng in the living room. She was a little sleepy and began to doze. "Sister, why don't you go back to your room to sleep?" Qin Sheng came back and saw Qin Ran like this. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Qin Ran woke up and said angrily, "Why did you come back so late? You made me worry all night. Can you come back earlier in the future? You didn't answer my calls." "Sister, what can I worry about? I guess Sister Ponytail and Jiayo have already reported it to you. But I have to say, sister, why did you know everything in advance? You didn't discuss it with me. I was almost ruined tonight." Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said. Qin Ran stared at Qin Sheng and said, "Don't I know you? Even if I told you, could you not go if I advised you to be sullen? How could I not know what you are thinking in your heart? I might as well let you go. Anyway, you will be rebuffed sooner or later." "You know me best, sister." Qin Sheng laughed and said. Qin Ran said angrily, "Don't flatter me. Let's talk about what happened tonight. I heard that Chen Taihe and Su Xingwei joined hands to make trouble for you. Even Song Husheng jumped out in the end. But in the end, you threw Song Husheng into the swimming pool. Weren't you afraid that Song Husheng would turn against you? Weren't you afraid that Ruyu would be angry?" Qin Sheng said thoughtfully, "Ruyu won't be angry. As for those people, I don't care. My current opponents are not them. They just want to ruin my reputation. Let them be. What I need to face now is Sixth Uncle's group. They won't let it go so easily." Qin Sheng said thoughtfully. Qin Ran said honestly, "Since the case of the old man has not been settled, we have to be careful. Otherwise we will lose everything." Qin Sheng nodded silently. Qin Ran suddenly said in a slightly serious tone, "By the way, I've been waiting for you at such a late hour because I have something to tell you. Uncle is going to the hospital to visit Grandma tomorrow morning. At that time, we'll go there with him. Uncle may have something to tell you, so you must go there." "I have to go there?" Qin Sheng frowned and said. He hadn't seen this busy uncle for a long time. He didn't know why his uncle suddenly wanted to talk to him. However, no matter what, he could only wait until he saw him. Therefore, Qin Sheng dared not refuse. The next morning, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran set off for the hospital just after 8 o'clock. They thought they had arrived quite early. However, when they arrived at the hospital ward, they could tell from the sudden strengthening of the security of this high-rise building that their uncle might have arrived. As expected, when they got out of the elevator and arrived at the floor where Grandma was, everything became clear. After going through several procedures, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran finally entered Grandma's ward. In the ward, their uncle was chatting with Grandma. At this time, their uncle was just an ordinary son, not the military tycoon who had been on the battlefield all his life. Seeing Qin Sheng and Qin Ran coming, Zhu Weigua, who was wearing a military uniform, greeted them kindly. "You and your brother are here." "Uncle, why are you here so early?" Qin Ran was very kind to her uncle. She smiled and walked over to him, holding his arm. The old lady lying on the bed smiled from ear to ear. Zhu Weigua patted Qin Ran's hand and said honestly, "I have a meeting later, so I came here early. After all, the National Day is coming, and I have a lot of things to do." "Uncle, no matter how busy you are, you should take care of yourself." Qin Ran acted like a spoiled child. At this time, Zhu Weiguo stood up slowly and said, "Well, you are a little girl. I don't know when you will get married. Now Qin Xing is ahead of you. You chat with Grandma for a while. I have something to talk to Qin Xing about." When Qin Xing heard this, he felt a little uneasy. Even though this big boss was his uncle, he was still a high-ranking soldier after all. No matter how amiable he was, Qin Xing always kept a distance from him every time he saw him. Maybe he had a murderous aura around him. Qin Xing thought to himself. However, no matter what, Qin Xing had to face it calmly. He could only follow his uncle out of the ward. Chapter 958. Qin Xing hadn't seen Zhu Weiguo, who was in a high position, or Zhu Weiguo, who had a bright future in his career, since he returned to the Zhu family. Therefore, although Zhu Weiguo was his uncle and Zhu Weiguo was his uncle, Qin Xing didn't know them better than strangers. However, they were not strangers after all. They were his family. He just couldn't help it. After all, he could see them every day, so could other people. Zhu Weiguo was very busy. How busy? It was the first time for Zhu Weiguo to visit his old lady since she was hospitalized. Zhu Weiguo had only seen his old lady 3 times since she came back to Beijing. Last time, if she hadn't announced something important, Zhu Weiguo had to come back. He wouldn't have taken time to see her. Loyalty and filial piety had always been difficult. Zhu Weiguo was in this position, so he couldn't make decisions on many things. Therefore, he came to see his old lady this time to solve the problem of the Qin family. He didn't want to see the Qin family, Qin Xing and Qin Ran, get involved in this storm. After Qin Chang'an got involved, the 2 kids couldn't handle it. In the lounge next to the ward, there were only Zhu Weiguo and Qin Xing. The door was guarded by Zhu Weiguo's secretary and guards. No one was allowed to come in, because what Zhu Weiguo was going to say today was related to the future of the Qin family. "Qin Xing, you're getting engaged next month. How's the preparation going?" Zhu Weiguo asked casually. Although he didn't agree to this marriage at first, the old lady and the old master had made the decision. Zhu Weiguo couldn't change it, so he just let nature take its course. Moreover, Qin Xing and Ruyu were a good match. Qin Xing was lucky to marry a wife like Ruyu. Qin Xing answered honestly, "Uncle, my aunt is in charge of these things. They should be ready." Zhu Weiguo let out a long sigh as he said, "Yeah, you're not young anymore. It's time for you to get married. When you get married, your sister will also get married. She has been waiting for you all the time. You two have made your grandmother worry a lot. Your grandmother will be satisfied to see you two get married." When Qin Xing had not come back, the old lady would talk about it almost every year. Especially when she saw Qin Ran, she would always call her, "poor granddaughter." Zhu Weiguo sighed deeply. Feeling somewhat guilty, Qin Xing said, "I made Grandma and Uncle worry about me. A lot of things can't be blamed on you. What happened can't be changed. No matter what, it's good that you're back," Zhu Weiguo said indifferently. Qin Xing did not say anything. Ever since he had returned to the Qin family and the Zhu family, he had been trying to figure out whether the car accident that his mother had died was an accident or whether there was a mastermind behind it. If there was a mastermind behind it, why didn't the old man and the Zhu family find out who it was? Qin Xing could understand if the situation back then did not allow it. But later on, both the Qin family and the Zhu family had reached such a position. Could it be that they could not find the real culprit behind the scenes? Zhu Weiguo did not know what Qin Xing was thinking. He said, "What about the Qin family? Is your father okay in there?" Qin Xing replied absent-mindedly, "We visited him twice. He's all right, and his mental state is also fine. As for the Qin family, that's all." How could Uncle not know the situation of the Qin family? "You should know it better than anyone else. Do you still need to ask me about it?" But in the end, he did not dare to say anything. Zhu Weigua felt that he had laid the groundwork, and it was time to talk about the Qin family. Chatting with this nephew of his was even more tiring than having a meeting. Because he had to care about his feelings, he could not scold him directly. However, some things had to be said eventually. So Zhu Weigua said directly, Qin Xing, this time I want to talk to you about the Qin family. This is also the last time I will pay attention to the Qin family. I won't talk about what your grandmother has done for you before. I guess you don't know how much your grandmother has done for you during this period. But I want you to know that both your grandmother and I are doing this for the good of the Qin family, as well as for you and your sister. So I will say what should be said today. As for what you will do, I don't care. Zhu Weigua suddenly became so serious that Qin Xing felt like he was facing a formidable enemy. He sat up straight, looked at Zhu Weigua, and said, Uncle, you can say it. I'm listening. Qin Xing, you can't say that your father's ending today was caused by him. It's just that times have changed. In front of the general trend of the country, no matter who it is, it's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. But fortunately, he understood at the last moment and let go of many things. Otherwise, he would not have ended up like this. Of course, it's also caused by him. If he had been slower in these years and not developed so fast, he would not have been the one who stood out. Everything would have been turned around, and naturally, he would not have ended up like this. Zhu Weigua frowned and looked at Qin Xing at the same time. He wanted to know Qin Xing's reaction. Qin Xing said quietly, Uncle, I already know about these things. The old man also told me. It's really not anyone's fault. I can only say that the Qin family has been in such a position, they have to make sacrifices. I'm very glad to hear that. But I don't know why the Qin family still won't let go of the Chang'an department. Is it your idea or your father's? Zhu Weigua asked. Qin Xing was a little surprised and said, Uncle, what do you mean? Qin Xing, don't you think the Chang'an department is already a hot potato? Everyone is watching the Chang'an department. If the Qin family still won't let go, what will others think? If the Qin family continues to control the Chang'an department, do you think they can change your father's ending? What I want to tell you is that the Chang'an department is far from as simple as you think. All this is just the beginning. What you see is just the tip of the iceberg. The bigger crisis is actually hidden under the sea. When you see it, it will be too late. Zhu Weigua finally said what he should say. This was also what he had to say. If Qin Xing still did not listen to him, he would no longer care about Qin Xing, Qin Ran, and the Qin family in the future. He would let them run their own course. Qin Xing was very shocked. This was the first time that his uncle had said these things to him so seriously. Although others had said these words, they were far less important than his uncle. Qin Xing was very clear that his uncle knew more than others, so he said seriously, Uncle, do you mean that we should let the Qin family give up the Chang'an department? Zhu Weigua nodded affirmatively and said, Giving up the Chang'an department is the best choice for the Qin family. Otherwise, your father's situation will not be better. No matter how much help the Zhu family gives, it will be useless. Besides, Qin Xing, who said that giving up is a loss. Giving up is not necessarily a loss. Maybe after you give up, the Qin family may be the big winner after a period of time. Qin Xing could not calm down. He gritted his teeth and said, Uncle, do you really want to do this? I've said what I should say. Go back and think about it. As for how to do it, it's up to you. Of course, if you choose to give up, you can also maximize the benefits appropriately. After all, there are many dangers that others may not be able to see. Zhu Weigua said with assurance. He had spent a lot of effort to figure out the Qin family's situation. However, in his position, he could not intervene directly. Otherwise, the Zhu family would suffer. Uncle, Qin Xing murmured. Zhu Weigua stood up slowly and said, If you don't believe me, you can tell my words to your father and your eldest uncle, who has already left the mountain. I think they will give you an answer. What? Eldest uncle has left the mountain? Hearing this news, Qin Sheng was shocked again. When did eldest uncle leave the mountain? Where is he now? Why don't they know? How did uncle know about it? Even if eldest uncle left the mountain, why didn't he go back to the Qin family? Qin Sheng had a series of questions. However, when he came to himself and wanted to ask, he found that his uncle had already stood up and went back to his room. Qin Sheng quickly stood up and followed him. However, he did not ask anything. After all, his grandmother and sister were still here. It was not appropriate at this time. Even if he asked his uncle, he might not tell him. Zhu Weigua held his old mother's hand and said reluctantly, "Mom, then I'll leave first. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran will stay with you. When I'm done with my work, I'll come to see you. Take care of yourself and listen to the doctor." The old lady said disapprovingly, all right. The national affairs are more important. Hurry up and go. I'll be fine. You don't have to worry about me." "Okay, then I'm leaving." Zhu Weigua stood up slowly and left, looking back 3 times as he walked. He was really reluctant to leave his mother. Although she had returned to the capital, he still did not have much time to accompany her. This was the guilt of being a son, but he believed that his mother would understand. When Zhu Weigua left, he patted Qin Sheng on the shoulder. Only Qin Sheng and he could understand what he meant. What should Qin Sheng choose this time? It was estimated that he could not make the decision alone. He had to go back and discuss with his sister and aunt. At least he had to ask eldest uncle, who had already left the mountain. However, where was eldest uncle now? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.